I always say the only person who sits with you at a pity party is the devil. And if you think like that, I bet you won't be throwing any pity parties.
I was addicted to drugs. I was, smoking weed. I was basically, the way I describe it is I wanted to die. I wanted to die. I just didn't have the courage to kill myself.
Yeah.
So I was just living as recklessly as I possibly could and just waiting for the same thing that happened to my brother to happen to me. And
every day I pray that the Lord keep me desperate for him, because what he'll knock you on your feet or on your knees.
That's
if you
powerful.
pray this prayer.
And so I for whatever reason decided that I was going to stay up and write my brother a letter.
Wow.
As if I had an opportunity to have one more conversation with him.
That story just like connected something. So
yeah, dude, what's up? So the premise of this whole podcast, actually, I haven't actually explained this yet on a podcast, but the premise of the whole show is like we have this really awesome community so far. We're starting to build this really, really awesome community here, and every day, I mean, like my favorite part of the process is like all these amazing people that I've met. I didn't anticipate that would be my favorite part of the process. Honestly, I love building, so like I really love that part of the process, just putting it together and seeing it come to life. But my favorite part of the process so far has been meeting all of these amazing people that have, depth and passion and talent and all these things. And so I thought it would be really cool. I mean, in the beginning, we would do this thing every week on our Instagram channel. Would say Familiar Faces at Home, and we would highlight somebody who is a regular and just be like, hey, this is Ken. Ken is cool, and he lives around here, and he orders a cappuccino. And I'm like, but what can we do to take that like 100 steps further? And the podcast is sort of is the solution to that. I thought it would be so cool because we get to hear your guys' stories, and we get to know you on a interaction by interaction basis, but then we're also pretty proactive about connecting with cool people outside of the shop, and we get to know everybody. But we're like, man, to really build the kind of community that we hope to build, it's cool. It would be cool to give our customers an opportunity to get to know each other on an intimate level, right? And so we started a podcast, and I think this is episode 6. But like, dude, you're one of the most, like, I don't even know how to describe it.
No, describe it, please.
You're like a mix between the Energizer Bunny and
That's
Energizer
good.
Bunny and mom, kind of. You got mom vibes, but also like fun mom vibes. Like,
Thanks.
You bring the party and you bring the energy, but you're also just such a light, man. You're such a light. You have the kind of energy that tells me unequivocally that you've been through some things, and that tells me
Stop.
it for real. No. Like I've been through some
Yes.
things, and I've been around a lot of people. I've been around, and I think I have a gift for reading people, and some people I just know. I'm like, oh yeah, they've been through some shit, because in order to come to this place where you have this unwavering perspective of gratitude for life and love for people and intolerance for negative toxic energy, in order to get to that place,
You gotta go through something.
99 times out of 100, you got to go through some shit.
What's the story?
Yeah, and so Jan, I'm so fucking happy that you're here, and I'm really excited to hear your story.
Love that.
But before we get to that, okay, we're just talking about this sweatsuit you got on. Okay, this sweatsuit is fire.
What's up?
Where you tell me it was from?
It's from Amazon, baby. And I know you hate Amazon.
Are you an Amazon? Are you like an Amazon hoe? Are you
so I'm not a hoe, but I do love Amazon. Wait, can I respond to everything you just said just now?
Of course you can.
Okay.
You can say whatever you want.
I would love to jump off that. For one, on the flip side, I love this podcast because, yes, you get to know us, but also we get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you say all these good things about all these people, and I believe that. Like, I love everything you just said, and I appreciate that. But even listening to the previous podcast that you've already done, I'm like, I did not know that about Mark. I didn't know this. Just some of the things, I mean, even the way that you think about, like I was listening to James' podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you were a journaler.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know. I knew you carried around that little notebook.
I got my handy-dandy notebook right here.
I see that all the time. And I knew that was like your ideas, and I love that because I do the same thing. I just do it on my phone.
Yeah.
And I knew that about you, but as for like journaling and getting James, like James is like, yeah, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And then you were like, well, you need to do more. You know, a little bit more than that. I love that because I am huge on journaling. And I'll tell people to the day I die, journaling is what pulled me out of a lot of things because all of those thoughts, if you keep them up here, you're screwed. So,
me too. No, journaling is absolutely what pulled me out.
Yeah.
In fact, fun fact, I was committed to doing YouTube videos for like a very short period. But one of the videos that I made was one of the most common questions I get asked online because I used to post about journaling every day. I used to, this is before I knew you, but I would take a picture of my journal and it would be at least a page. That's my rule. It's like at least one full page. Yeah. So it'd be at least a page, and I would blur it out because I didn't want people reading my stuff. But I would just take some time to check in with yourself today.
Gosh, I love that.
Every day. And so I used to always get asked, like, hey, I want to start journaling, but I don't know how to get started. So I made a YouTube video that was like,
it's go.
It's like 20 minutes long, and it's me explaining how I got into journaling, what the process was that I followed when I first got started, how I recommend you get started, and what my process looks like today.
Heck yeah.
And it's my most viewed YouTube video. It really is.
It always is.
Yeah. But no, so man, journaling is so powerful because I think that our thoughts and our emotions and they have, in our experiences, but they have power over us. I always struggle to articulate this, but they have a tremendous amount of power over us. And there's something powerful about speaking it, you know? And when you speak it and there's like an undertone of like objective ownership, you know, it's almost like you take the power from it.
Yep.
Like every time I tell my story or any piece of my story, anytime I tell any piece of my story, you know, I there's this one thing that happened to me when I was 11 years old. My mom tricked me. She told me we were going on a vacation, and I was so excited, and I packed my bags, and we got on the plane, and we flew from Florida to New York, and we got there, and we got in the car, and we drove to a building, and my mom told me, hey, man, wait right here, and she sat me down on a bench, not quite as comfortable as this one, and she left me there. She never came back. Like, she just never came, and that was one of the most devastating, but every time I tell it, you know, like, the power.
You get stronger.
Well, not only do I get stronger, like, it had so much power over me for so long. It was eating me alive.
Yeah.
That happened. But once I came to terms with it and I started speaking it, now every time I say it, there's somebody that hears it and they're like, wow, that happened to him. And they're either inspired or reassured that something bad happened to them and they're going to be okay.
Yep.
You know, so like that's the power that I get to harness because I have the courage to say it. But the first step of speaking it for me was writing it.
Heck yeah.
I didn't have anybody in my life that I felt comfortable sharing some of my darkest, you know, sort of memories and thoughts with. And so I had to muster the courage to have those conversations. And if I couldn't have them with anybody else, I needed to have them with myself. And that's really where I started. It was so powerful. So powerful.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific journal, like a specific day, a specific journaling entry that like...
Oh, I do.
That really did it for you?
Yeah.
All right, what's yours?
Yeah. So like same thing with you, just getting those thoughts on paper. And just to bounce off that really quick, and then I'll get into my entry. I tried to journal for years. Like I tried, but I never liked it. I never liked it. I'm like, this isn't working. I don't like journaling. I would rather just bottle it up, keep it in, because this is not working. I feel sadder or more sad. I don't really know.
I'm with you.
I grew up in the ghetto. I don't really. Nolan gets on me. He's like, that's not how you say things.
That's fine.
Anyway, but
it
would be worse. Yeah. But it would be worse. I would feel worse. But and then I started doing this method, and I would love to know more about how you journal. But I started doing this method on. I start with reflecting, and then I end it with rebuild. So like the reflect and rebuild. And this is actually what I teach people. I've actually spoke at events. I've taught people how to journal.
Oh, this is cool.
So first, reflect is, okay, what is going on? How are you feeling? Mm-hmm. And it is messy. Like, everyone's journal entry is probably a little messy in the beginning. But if you leave it there, and that's people's problem, is they leave it there. And then they get up and they walk away and they're like, well, that did nothing. And they hate it. But if you rebuild, so like if I say I'm going through a really tough season right now, like my grandma just passed away, and this actually, like my grandma just passed away, the lockdown just happened, like what the heck is going on around me? But and then you just lay it all out, reflecting on everything that's going on. But then you rebuild and you're like, but I know I'm going to be okay. Like I believe my grandma's going to be healed. I really believe God's going to do that. And if not, I'm still going. I'm still pushing through, you know. The lockdown is only it's just a season. Like just rebuilding the things that you've just reflected on. And then you walk away and you're like, okay, it's like a little weight off my chest a little bit. So you're not as like depressed.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it. But there was one journal entry. What's funny is me and Nolan just went through our books today. I just lined up all of my journals today.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, Lord, we're probably going to talk about journaling tonight, because I got to go through some of my old ones. And I wrote something, I wrote it about a roller coaster. And I'm very like, I do these illustrations all the time. That's just how my brain works, huge imagination. So I'm like, my life is a roller coaster right now, and I have no idea where it's going. And this is when it was my lowest point. Like I had no idea. I did not believe in God. And you know me now. I freaking love Jesus. Like you know me.
Yeah.
But at this point, I did not like God. And I'll explain that later. But I was just going back and forth with all these things. And I'm like, my life is terrible. And at the end of the journal entry, I'm like, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here. Yeah. And that's crazy. Thinking about that now, I'm like, how could I ever think that? But people don't understand when you are in that, like when you're that low, you're blinded from the truth. You don't know. Yeah. Like you're so deceived. And, but I read that and I'm like, I got to do something about that. Yeah. So that's like the entry.
Did you walk away from that entry in particular, like inspired to change, like when you wrote it, or was it in retrospect when you went back and reread it, did you be like, oh no, I need to rebuild?
I freaking love this question. I did not walk away wanting to change. And I think a lot of it has to do with nothing ended. Like I didn't rebuild anything. It was just like that reflection.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, period.
Exactly. And that's it. Close, walk away. But it was like months later when I started really playing around with my faith. I'm like, who even is God? Like, what's this all about? And I started reading more about it. And then I went back to that entry as I was like tiptoeing over faith. Yeah. I went back to that entry, and not intentionally. I just found it. You know how it always happens. Yeah. And I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. I need to I need to figure this out. So I started just diving a little bit deeper, and from there, just growing more and more. You became Jan. Yeah.
Man.
Became Jan.
Dude. Yeah. I'm really, really excited to hear more about the younger version of you. And I think I would describe it as there's a period of wandering, that a lot of people, most people go through. Course. But some people wander to the depths, and some people learn their lesson real quick. Yep. They used to say to me, hard head makes a soft ass, or or you only learn through your own suffering. I heard that so much, and it's true. Yeah. I'm unfortunately, I am the poster boy for that. Mm-hmm. Dude, there was a journal entry that changed, that definitely changed my life.
I want to hear about it. Yeah.
One night I was in prison, and I was in prison at the time. Not one night I was in prison. I was in prison many nights, but
5.5 years later.
But yeah, one night when I was in prison, one of the things that I kind of made peace. I made peace with my mom. I made peace with my dad. I made peace with, some of the bad things that happened to me as a child. But like there was two periods. There was two chapters of my childhood. The one is like before that incident that I just described, right? Mm-hmm. So after that, on that day when my mom left me there, it was actually the greatest thing ever that could have happened to me. But on that day, custody was officially transferred from my birth mother to my foster parents. Greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. My birth parent, my foster parents. That's when I say my parents to this day, I'm talking about my foster parents. Okay. They're greatest thing, greatest people. It was a good day, but it didn't happen very smoothly. So there's everything up until that day, and then there's everything after that day. Mm-hmm. And I made peace with most of the stuff that happened to me up until that day. But there was this one thing that, that I just couldn't come to terms with. And it's that my brother died when I was 16, my big brother. And it was just awful. It was tragic. It was just, I didn't come to terms with it. And so I just wouldn't, it's not that I wouldn't accept it. I don't know what it was, but like to put it in perspective, what I trying to communicate, when we got the call, I didn't even cry. I was just like I wouldn't let myself feel it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't cry. I woke up the next morning and went to school. Like we got the call like 7:00 at night. I went to bed like it was a school night and woke up the next morning, went to school. It was just, I was so distant from it. And, and I carried that for years. Like for years, I just didn't address it. And so one night, for whatever reason, I was already on my path, but this was the last thing that that was really, really, in my heart. And so I for whatever reason, decided that I was going to stay up and write my brother a letter. Wow. As if I had an opportunity to have one more conversation with him.
Oh, I just got the chills.
That's right. And so I did. I stayed up until like 2-3 in the morning, just bawling my eyes. I can't even see the page, because I'm just crying and I just let myself feel it. And I had to, I did. And I woke up the next day. I was a new man. Mm-hmm. Like I was a new man. It was like the last big, hurdle that I had to jump, and the last thing I had to come to terms with. And I had to tell him, like, dude, it's cool, man. Like, I still have that journal. I still have that. I read it. I reread it often. I have a couple powerful ones, but that one was the one that. That one was the one that, like, I just don't know if I'd be me if I hadn't addressed that. Like, it was just a big thing for me. Yeah.
Dude, you just connected something.
What?
And like what I'm thinking about right now.
What?
There was, okay, I don't want to cut you off, but you literally, that story just like connected something. So a part of my childhood was my dad, and he was a terrible person, but he left my family when I was 7, and he did a lot of just crazy things, which I can explain later, but you can explain thoroughly. I can explain it now. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to hear.
All right, fine, I will.
So your childhood,
Yeah, so my dad was just bad. You know those people where I still pray for him. I just want to make that very, very known, but it took a long time to get here. He was very abusive. He never touched, I have 3 brothers. He never touched me and my brothers, but he was very abusive to my mom, and we all watched it. So he would do these things in front of us. Like, I'm talking crazy stuff. He chopped my mom's hair off with a butcher knife in front of us. Like,
no way.
Just crazy stuff. And he was in gangs. Like, I I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, when I was a kid, I would, go back on the couch, and if my hand slipped in the crack, there were like AK-47s. Like,
oh, wow.
And, so that's how I grew up. And I thought it was all normal. Like, I thought this was...
That is what you think when you're in situations like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because you're so young, and this is, I still weirdly looked up to him because he's, my dad. So just crazy. But when I turned 7, he left. And for, like, just like you said, it was praise God. Mm-hmm. Praise God he left the family, because if he would have stayed, then I don't know if my mom would be here to this day, because... it's that like abusive love.
Yeah.
You love.
I know.
He would say, I love you so much, but he like hated her. Oh, that abusive, you know what I'm saying? Bad.
I know. And the women won't leave.
And they won't
leave. They're like a loyal dog that just gets beat every night. Oh,
my mom said?
Heart.
My mom, oh gosh, I love her. And she's doing great things now. But she said, well, I thought if we had kids, I thought that he would loosen up. Yeah. She didn't even say change. She said loosen up. She was willing to stay with him if he just struggled with anger. But so crazy stuff. But when he left when I was 7, he killed someone.
Really?
So he was caught at a bar, and he stabbed a man in the back 8 times with a knife, and the man died. And he said it was like a bar fight, and that man was abusing his girlfriend, so it was self-defense, like all this stuff. And he was only in prison for 7 years because they ended up saying it was just self-defense. So he got a very short term for murder, obviously. So when he got out, when he was in prison, he wrote us all these letters, and this is going somewhere. It's going to tie into what you just said. He wrote us all these letters, and we were, for some reason, it's so crazy because as kids, we're like, yeah, Dad's getting out of prison soon. Like we're going to get to see Dad again. Because we still weirdly looked up to him. It's crazy. We were so, kids are so innocent. They don't know.
It really is crazy.
It's mind blowing to me, but which I think it's good. I think as a kid, because we were so shielded from that.
It just speaks to like, and we can touch on this later, but like it drives me crazy how, the society in which we live right now. Mm-hmm. Looks at marriage between a man and a woman specifically, as something that's an antiquated or outdated idea. And how, the idea of what it means to be a good man, has become such a blurry image for people. I mean, I'm not even talking kids. Like, there's adults. Like, if you had asked somebody, what's a good man look like? If you ask 100 people, hey, what's a good man look like? Let's say 50 years ago, even 30 years ago, and you put everybody's answers on a Venn diagram, there'd be most of the answers would be overlapping. There was an agreed upon idea of what a good man looks like, and then we also and also an implied understanding of why it's so important for not only individual households and individual communities, but for our nation as a whole to have good men around. And this is because even in the presence of such a terrible example of a human being, but also of a father, the it's in us. It's a biological thing. You look up to your dad irrespective of how he shows up. It's so crazy. Yeah. Drives me crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. It's so true. I agree with everything you said. Yeah.
You guys are still looking forward to him coming home. We're going to get to see Dad. Like,
as we're just getting older, the years are going by. We haven't seen him in years.
He's a tornado in your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my mom was so good. She promised the family, my, like her sisters and my grandma, she said, we will never speak ill of their father. She calls him sperm donor, but it's fine.
We can leave that out.
Yeah, we can leave that out. Yeah, it's fine. But she's like, I'm never going to speak ill. I'll let them know that he was not a good man and he wasn't the perfect father, but I'm not going to tell them anything until they're older, until they can understand. And I think that was so good for us because if she would have been completely honest. We saw a lot, so we still saw a lot of things, but because she didn't just sit there and rail on him 24/7, I think it protected a lot of our childhood too. But so the connection. So when I started kind of getting my life together, so same when you were like, I forgave it. Oh, okay, wait, go.
Well, because I kind of want to know, like, you know, what effect did this all have on you? Like for me, you know, I ended up in prison. You know what I mean? I ended up in prison. I was addicted to drugs. I was, you know, smoking weed. I was basically, the way I describe it is I wanted to die. You know, like I wanted to die. I just didn't have the courage to kill myself. Yeah. So I was just living as recklessly as I possibly could and just waiting for the same thing that happened to my brother to happen to me. And, you know, and so I would imagine like you're fast forwarding now, like 10 years, like what happened in between? Yeah. You know, like how your dad came home from prison. What happened? But you can tie it together right now. But I just have more questions. Yeah.
No, I love that. He never came home. So after prison, he disappeared.
No way.
I swear. So
what do you mean?
He literally, I don't know to this day. I have no clue. So, but listen, I developed anger. So before it was like, oh, well, you know, I forgive him. And this was when I was in like high school. So when you're in high school, you don't really know what's going on. Like you might have some hurt, but you don't actually know what's going on. So
plus you suppress a lot of stuff.
You do. And I was still very hopeful. But when he got out of prison, because, you know, he would date things like this is the date I'm getting out. And then things would get pushed back or they would get pushed forward. He had a huge, he was doing like community service and stuff like that to get out earlier. So he gets out, and when we don't hear from him, and my brothers to this day have never talked about it. So I'm still working on them. But me, I was mad. Like I was the firecracker. Like,
how old were you when he got released?
18.
Oh wow.
So I was graduating from high school, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to graduate from high school. This is when I thought I was going to go to college. All these things, and then I get to have a dad in my life. This is the little puzzle pieces I was putting together. I was creating like a fantasy, literally, of just this whole thing. And then I knew that he moved to Chicago, but I didn't know where he went. And then he stopped communicating, all of that. And I messaged him on Facebook, which took me weeks. I mean, it took me 3 weeks to even type up this message. And it was me forgiving him. Like I'm kind of jumping a little bit.
We'll circle.
Because it took, I am. This is actually an important detail. So when I was 18 is when he didn't come back. And then about 3 years go by. So it was a lot happened in that 3 years. And this is kind of when I went crazy, just a lot of things. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. And 3 years go by, and that's when I'm like, I need to forgive my dad in order to get through all of this anger and resentment. And I didn't believe in marriage. Oh my gosh. I truly believe that there was no good man on this earth.
Yeah.
And that is a lot, you know, that stems from my dad. But I thought that everyone was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And I would, even in like the dating scene, I would find the red flags. You know, I wouldn't give anyone a chance.
You're like going looking for them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I had such high expectations for so many people, like even friendships and stuff. My expectations were so high because I'm like, if you don't meet this, then you're basically dead to me.
Then you're him.
Yeah, literally. So it developed a lot of just like trust issues and anger. But when I finally decided to forgive him, I wrote out this long, basically a letter, but it was on Facebook. I found his Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I forgive you for what you've done. You said this and then you did this. And it was a really nice message, actually. And he never responded. But there was something, like when I pressed send on that message, there was just a weight just lifted off. I actually felt free. Like I actually was healed from like the anger I had from him, and he didn't even respond.
Didn't matter.
So when you said you wrote that letter to your brother, as if it was the last conversation, yes, different scenarios, but when you said that, I was like, shut up. That's literally, it's the same freaking thing.
It's the same.
It's the same thing.
See, a lot of times you got to do that for you, not for them.
Yeah.
And like, even in that moment, you know, you were expecting, see, I did mine, obviously not expecting.
Of course.
There's, you know, I had nothing attached to it. There's no, I think, you know, they say expectation leads to disappointment. And sometimes we can go into conversations, hard conversations, and like, we know we need to be the adult right now. We need to go have this conversation, but we still have an expectation for how it's going to go. Like, all right, like you and Nolan get into it, and you go into, and you're like, okay, I'm going to be an adult. I'm going to have this conversation, and he's going to apologize, and it's going to be fine. And then he doesn't apologize, and it's like the conversation goes left, right?
You're like,
Well, so I think that was an important piece for the letter that I wrote, was like, I, you know, kind of, for me, it was obvious, like, I'm not getting a response. I got to do this for me. I got to say this. And because this is what I need to do. And you did the same thing. And it's, dude, it's so...
It's healing.
It's so healing.
Like
it's so
forgiving,
healing. Yeah. In fact, one of the most powerful concepts that I've ever come across, and I've done a lot of digging, a lot of work, a lot of reading, is and it's actually, you won't like this, but... It's a Hindu concept.
Shut up. I hate that.
At least I discovered it in the Bhagavad Gita, which is, I don't care what you believe in. There's so much wisdom in every holy book that has ever been written. Yeah. And the Bhagavad Gita is one of the holy books for Hinduism. And they talk about, you know, this concept of like renunciation is one of the concepts that's really powerful, but also detachment. You know, and it's one of the quotes, the verses, it's written in verses that I really love, is, you're only entitled to the action, never to its fruit. Do not let the fruit of action be your motive, but do not attach yourself to non-action. So like, don't act, you know, for the fruit. Don't do it because you're looking for something, but do it just basically because it's what needs to be done. And, you know, it's one of the most powerful concepts I've ever come across. And it's like, you know, you writing that letter, me writing my letter is pretty much, you know, is an example of that. So 18, dad comes home and he disappears. You know, like, how did you deal? I don't imagine that there was like an immediate reaction, like, oh, dad disappeared. You probably didn't know what was happening. You're probably just left wondering, you know, okay, maybe he'll respond next week, you know, whatever. What did that look like?
Well, I will say, I didn't realize this until years later, but my first time ever getting drunk was when I was 18, literally. Really? Yeah, which is crazy to some, because they're like, wait, what? You were 18.
Such a badass.
But if you knew me then, you'd be like, okay, that's kind of off.
Yeah.
Not that I don't know. I was just always in high school. I was still outgoing, still had all these friends because I'm freaking awesome. But I was very like reserved, and I didn't do a lot of things the other people did, even though I hung around them. I just didn't do it. So at that point, though, is when I just started tapping into things that I had never done before. And that was the first time I had drank. And then, you know, a year goes by and I'm like, dang, he's really not coming back. Yeah. So to me, like, if you would have asked me back then, if you would have said, so how are you feeling about that? I would have told you, I don't care.
I'm fine.
And I used to make such bad dad jokes.
Yeah.
You know, just covering it all up, hiding it. You know, if Father's Day, I will never forget, if there was a Father's Day and I posted a picture of me like this, like acting like,
no,
like I'm hugging someone.
Oh no.
And I posted this because I was the class clown, right? I was 100%. I loved to make people laugh. I posted that picture of me like hugging the air, and I said, Happy Father's Day from me and my dad. a freaking empty space, Mark.
Dude,
like,
that's sad.
It is so sad. And
that's heartbreaking.
It's like when I think about it now, and I work with a lot of kids, like through my church and stuff. I'll hear them make jokes like that. And I'm like, oh, it is so not funny.
I know.
But it's the thing you do.
Especially because you know.
Yeah. You know, and
I'm not going to call you out right now, but I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
Exactly. So I will tell these kids like,
really?
Don't joke about it. It's not funny. And they won't understand maybe till later, but yeah, just things like that. It was a huge joke. It was just whatever. And years kept going. And I'm drinking all the time, and it's not addictive at this point. I'm just partying. I'm just having fun. It's the normal, I should say. I mean, I don't know if, that's pretty normal. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going out partying with my friends.
18, 19, 20. Like,
yeah, it's just what you
party
do
when you're 20. Yeah.
Gosh, I feel like I'm so old. I'm like, is that normal? Yes.
How old are you now?
27.
Got it. So you're still baby.
I'm still a baby.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm doing just the normal things. I start smoking. Marijuana.
Okay.
Oh, I was a huge stoner.
I didn't know you was like that.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
I see you.
So I started smoking, but this was when it was, for one, it was very frowned upon. Yeah. Back when I was Trust like, me, I know. Oh, well, yeah, you get it.
Trust me, I get
it. You good?
my friends, it's so backwards, but my friends would like party every weekend, like same age, 17, 18, 19. My friends are throwing these, because I grew up and during that age, I was in the country. So like in the country, you have like these barn parties, you have parties. They're having these bonfires, getting drunk every weekend. But because I smoke weed, I'm like the fucking stoner. Like it was so backwards. Like I wouldn't drink at all at that age. Yeah. But everybody looked at me like I was the loser.
You were like the bad, like don't hang out with him.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of those thoughts about people like you. I'm not even joking.
Grace is too. When I first met Grace, I was like, oh, you never smoked weed before? She's like, no, I don't do weed. I'm like, okay, gotcha.
You're like slowly backing up. Yeah, no, I 100% get that, because in high school, if you were like a stoner, you were freaking like, oh no, that's too far.
Yeah, don't hang out with that kid.
Don't do that. But this is, I started. So now I'm graduated. Now I'm going to colleges. I did want to go to college for a long time. And this is a little side story, but my dad stole my identity when I was 8. So he used my Social Security to rack up like a crap ton of debt. Yeah. And this is after, so it was before he went to prison, but we were dealing with it while he was in prison. Yeah. And there's not a lot you can do. I mean, you can definitely report it, but a lot of those damages, I don't know if anyone's ever been through something like that, but a lot of those damages, they really do stay on there for a really long time. So any debt I tried to get into, like buying a car, getting a credit card, going to college and taking out, loans for this, I was denied everything because of him doing that when I was younger, which I considered it a blessing now, because it is such a blessing.
When you're 18 years old, you shouldn't be able to borrow $100,000 to go to college.
You shouldn't. And the only reason I'm in debt now is because my husband went to college, and I'm like,
Thank you, Jesus. You didn't let me get those loans.
Yeah, I really do. I say that. I'm like, thank you, because I didn't get into any debt. Yeah. I went to a community college for like a year and a half. I didn't finish, but I paid it all in cash. Yeah. So I just hustled. Yeah. So whatever. But anyway, so at this point, I'm years out of high school, and I'm going to all these college towns. My friends would say, because they all went to college, they would all say, oh yeah, you go to college, you just go on the weekends. You're just going on the weekends to party. So I was like,
love that. Yikes. I love that. Yikes. No.
Yeah, they're like, don't worry about it. You still come. Yeah. And so I was going on the weekends, all this stuff.
I've never heard that before, ever.
Yeah.
You just go on the weekend.
Yeah. You didn't have to get accepted for this one. They like felt bad for me. It all goes back into like joking about what's actually not very funny. Yeah. But So
joke's on them though, because you're probably crushing it.
Heck yeah.
And they're not using their degree.
I know.
That's
a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
But
People
yeah,
ask me all the time. I literally just the other day, I had a guy. Dude, I have to share this actually. Did you?
Dude, I want you to.
Were you out? I did an Instagram live the other day, venting about this.
Mm-hmm.
I've met two. Do you know that WashU is like a prestigious school?
Yes.
Okay, if you search, anybody listening to this, you can Google most prestigious colleges in America. WashU is the top 20 on every list. They call it the Harvard of the Midwest. I've met two professors from WashU since opening Omen. The first one is a woman who I can't remember for the life of me. What? I can't remember for the life of me. Lau was looking at me. She probably Googled it. It's number 21, you know. But I can't remember for the life of me what she's a professor of, and I believe it's global health, but it's something like that. It's something ambiguous where you would look at it and be like, what is this class about?
Right.
She tried to convince me right here in
we
my
go.
own coffee shop that all white people are inherently racist.
Oh, Lord.
I'm half white. What are you talking about?
Hey, oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? And she's a professor at one of the most prestigious colleges in America.
Yeah.
And then she refused to say the word abortion. She kept saying reproductive health. I'm sorry. No, we're gonna call it what it is. It's okay. If you want to be, pro-choice, that's cool, but we still have to, this is like we're not playing
She's
this game.
sugarcoating it,
Yeah, we're not gonna sugarcoat it. It's you're aborting this child. You're killing this baby. But anyway, so that was the first professor. The second one, and this is 100% a commercial, that if you are thinking about sending your child to these prestigious institutes, you gotta I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know what's happening in our higher education right now. The second one was this man I met the other day. Nice man. Had a great conversation with him. But Jack was actually sitting right next to me when I was having this conversation. And apparently he's a professor of entrepreneurship and business law at WashU. And he's asking me these questions. The reason why I thought of this is because at one point he's like, wait a minute, you didn't go to college?
Oh, gosh.
And I'm like, no, I went to prison.
I love this. Yeah, I love this conversation.
I went to prison. No, I didn't go to college. And then I straight up told him, I'm like, dude, all these educated people confuse education with intelligence far too often in our society. I don't care what degrees you have or what letters are next to your name. If you're a dumbass, you're a dumbass. And there's no amount of books or degrees that can change that. You need to. Anyway, I told this man, I firmly believe that 95% of what you need to learn about entrepreneurship, which was his field of study, you can learn by trying it, through experience. That's where I learned it all.
What did he say?
No, to his credit, he agreed with me.
Okay.
He did. He was like, listen, I have four, not undergraduate degrees. I have 4 next level degrees. He was like, he has a law degree. He has, PhD in something. He's got a master's degree in this and that. 4 degrees, and he said 90% of what I've learned about life that's actually valuable, I've learned through experience. 10%
Oh
I
my
learned
goodness.
So to his credit, he agreed. But at one point, this man, I forget what we were talking about what I'm trying to do here. And I kind of got into how I really believe that the internet is just wreaking havoc on our society, and how we've lost the ability to just agree to disagree. We can't have, and everywhere you go on the internet, not even just social media, even search engines like Google or Google Chrome or whatever, Safari, they're algorithmic in the sense that there is an underlying algorithm that is built to get to know your surfing habits and to show you to tailor the results it shows you or your searches, and to show you more things that it knows you will like.
Yeah.
And so the more time you spend on them, the better these algorithms get to know you. And before you know it, the eventuality is going to be that every time you go on any of these platforms, you're going to be sort of enveloped in an echo chamber of your ideologies and beliefs, etc., because it knows you, okay? Yeah. And so when that happens, and that happens to most people, what I see happening in society is that the further into these echo chambers that we get, the more intolerant we get of any other views or beliefs that, and then, somebody challenges you and it becomes this very toxic conversation. And I was saying to this man, what I want to do is create a space where like it's okay to agree to disagree, where we can sit here and you believe one thing and I believe another thing, and we can talk about it, because when I was growing up, that's how it was. I always use my father as an example, which that was another question I have for you, which is like, did any other male figure ever come into your life? Did your mom ever remarry or whatever? That's something I do want to ask, but
it's a messy story, but yeah, we can definitely talk about it.
So my foster father, best man I've ever known, he's a guy that by trade, he worked for GE. He just worked in a chemical plant, basically. But he's really handy. Like when I think of like what does a man look like,
him.
I swear, I think about my dad.
That's
He's
so good.
Like no matter what, like my mom, I love her. God bless her soul, but she's toxic. I'm telling you, like, man, if you're gonna meet her someday, because she comes and holy moly, you want to know where I get my outspokenness and my hard-headedness. My mom,
dude, my mom too. She's amazing, but I'm like
amazing, but so damn toxic, like so damn toxic. And so anyway, but my dad, despite it all, is just like whatever she says, like that's my wife. I don't give a fuck. She's right.
Yeah.
And just unwavering in his commitment to her. It was just amazing. Anyway, but when we were growing up, since he's really handy, we always lived in neighborhoods. Like we lived in like the old fashioned kind of communities. Like, again, this is my foster parents. So from 11 on, we were in the country, and that's just how you see it in like rural and suburban areas. And so you knew everybody in your neighborhood and, yada, yada, yada. But like I can literally, when something would go wrong, people would call my dad and he would always show up. In fact, I can remember my mom and my dad fighting about this because my dad would never say no to anybody. So they would just run him ragged, and he just, he'd always go. And I can literally remember nights when, somebody's pipe burst or something, and my dad, the phone would ring at 2, 3 in the morning, and my dad would just get up, put his boots on.
Not even complain,
and
probably.
It's not even a question. But in that moment, the reason why I tell people this story, because in that moment, he didn't give a fuck if you were Muslim or if you were gay or if you... He didn't care. He didn't care if you had an abortion last year and he didn't agree. He didn't care. If you lived in, we all live here and we're all in this together. And it's okay that I don't believe all the same things that you believe. And it's okay. We're 95% of what's in your best interest is in my best interest. And we need to work on making this place the best place to live for all of us. That's kind of how it was. And it's just, so I was explaining this to him and how.
This professor?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
I swear to God. I said, that's what I'm trying. I said, that's what I'm trying to do here.
Let's go.
Like, I'm trying to create a space where we can agree to disagree again, where we can come here and acknowledge that we're all on the same team. It's cool. Like, it's really cool. Like, I have this rule, this thing. I just actually did a Zoom call on this because I have people from all over the country now asking me, like, hey, I see those men's and women's groups that you guys do at Omen. I want to do something like that in my community.
Mark, I sasaw that.
Can you teach me how to do it? I had 60 people sign up to get on a Zoom call to learn how to do it. And I told them this one thing, because there's 3 objectives of those groups, but one of them is the rule of 95-5. And what I mean by that is, I think that when you live in a shared community with people, 95% of, and these are just, sort of numbers that I pull out of thin air, but I bet you it's roughly true. So 95% of what is in your best interest is also in my best interest, meaning if the local small business economy here is good, if we can trust our public schools to teach our kids things that, are practical and valuable, if crime is, reduced and we don't have to worry about our safety when we leave our homes, if taxes are reasonable and people, are not, killing themselves just to get by, like there's just most things that are in your best interest are going to be in my best interest, right?
Yeah.
And I think that as a society right now, we're spending, because of the media and because of, division that's propagated online and these echo chambers, and I think that we're spending 95% of our time arguing about the 5% of things that really we strongly disagree on.
Yeah.
And if we can, and one of the goals of our men's and women's groups is like to get people that live in the same community, let's just get the 95% that's in both of our best interests situated. Yeah. Let's get the economy situated. Let's get the local crime reduced. Let's get all of these things. Let's get the schools teaching things that let's get on the same page about the 95%, and then we can go and address the 5%. And so anyway, I was telling this man that, but the reason why he even came up was because I think we were talking about college, and I told him, like, you're a dumbass. You went to you did it 4 times.
4 times, like.
And do not ever send your dude. I don't know why people send their kids to these prestigious schools anymore. I really don't. That's what they're teaching them. That's what they're teaching them, that all white people are inherently racist. God. And that, for real. Oh,
what does that even mean? Well, I was called racist.
No. So. And what came up was Elon Musk.
Oh, man.
Elon Musk came up. And because I was saying this, and I'm like, hey, we need to have, an open discussion. And he was, and I was saying how the internet is the problem. And he was like, yeah, I agree with you, except for Twitter, man. What we're seeing what's going on with Twitter right now is so bad. And I was like, that's interesting, because, I would argue that, I said, don't you think that like having a free and open discussion is a good thing for society? Healthy? Like, I think like, part of free speech is giving people an opportunity to say things that you might not like or agree with, even just because they have the right to say it. Like, and he was like, well, what I have a problem with is there's so much, if people are saying things that are not true. And I'm like, but so Meta suppressing any opinions that don't align with theirs is okay, but okay. And I just moved on, because I was like,
sips coffee.
Well, I'm like, I'm either about to get into it right now,
yeah.
Or
you start clenching your fist.
I'm just gonna shake your hand and say it was great to meet you today. And so I chose the latter.
End it.
Yeah, I'm growing. I had to pick my battles. I'm growing. This is a big win for me, Mom.
I'm so
I
proud
didn't
of
get
you.
into it, but yeah. Anyway, that's I don't know my story. But okay, so back to you.
I don't even know what we were.
Well, one thing I want to know is about.
You asked.
Yeah, your father figure. Did you ever have another father figure that came into your life?
Yeah, so my mom did get remarried. She's actually remarried again. So all of this marriage thing, you kind of see where it's coming from, where I'm like, I definitely don't believe in marriage.
Yeah.
And I'm married now, of course, but that's a whole nother thing. So
beautiful relationship.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Took a lot of work.
I saw that reel you posted the other day.
Oh,
wait, so sweet.
I've been posting a lot lately.
Yeah, you have been. You're about to be an influencer.
Trying to step it up.
No, the one, it was like a highlight reel of like Nolan and like the partner.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And then what's that one post that I reshared? Ooh.
You loved the lust, like the getting through like lust and temptation, all that.
Oh,
before.
So good.
Yeah.
You guys should follow Janese on Instagram if you're not following her. She posts some really wholesome content.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, so
I appreciate that. So my mom got remarried to my first stepdad. Excuse me. And he was no good. I mean, she definitely had a type. And I think we talk about it now, I think she was just filling voids in her own heart and her own life. And she wanted someone who would help with the kids. And she was with people for the wrong reasons. And I think a lot of people go through that. I've gone through that. So I definitely get it. But he was more, so he wasn't like my dad though. He was more like creepy. Like there was one time he put a video camera in my room and literally was recording me changing.
No way.
And I caught him. Yeah. Never told my mom until years later.
What do you mean you caught him?
I caught the camera. It was back in the day when the cameras.
So it wasn't like obvious.
It was not obvious. So, we got these cameras here and they make no noises whatsoever. Even if you were, it is on video. You can't hear these cameras. Well, back in the day, this was, Oh, I was in high school when this happened. So still, just to throw this back, still kind of messaging my dad while he was in prison, writing those letters. Then my mom gets remarried as I'm still communicating back and forth with my dad in prison, and she marries this man. She was with this man for like 5 years. So it was a really long time. But I was in my room one day, and there were little details throughout him being in that house that were very weird if I think about it now, but
like what?
I didn't think about it much. Like there was one time where he would like cuddle me, like spoon me, and he wanted to, like, he would not let my mom do it. He's like, I'll do it if she's scared. And it was just weird. Like thinking about it now, like the way that he would like touch me and stuff was just not okay. But and then this camera thing. So I go into my room, and those older cameras make noises. Nolan has a bunch of those kind of cameras because he collects those. Yeah. You can hear them. It's kind of like, you hear your fridge running right now. Yeah. So it was really quiet in my room, and I heard it, and I'm like, what the heck is that noise? And I'm looking around, and I follow the noise. Like I'm literally like, there's a noise here. So I find this camera. It's like poking out under, it was like on a shelf behind this picture frame and kind of being hidden by, like, he moved like a stuffed animal like on top of it and the picture frame in front of it, just like crazy stuff. And yeah, it was literally recording as I was in the middle of changing. And then I ripped it off of the shelf. I opened the door, and he was standing on the outside of the door. We lived in a really beat down trailer, like very beat down. There's like 9 of us living in this place. And my door was very like broken because my brother's gotten a lot of fights and they broke it. So there was actually like a crack in my door. It didn't shut all the way. So I had to, like, if I wanted to shut it, I had to put things in front of it. So when I took this camera down, I went to the door, and he was already there, like looking in the crack too. And this was my stepdad. So we've got my dad, who was no good in the sense of he beat my mom. Yeah. But he was so good to us kids, like as good as like his good, he never touched us kids. He would kill someone. I mean, I shouldn't make that reference. Because but he probably would, like, over us kids. He was very protective. It was just something with my mom. And then you've got this other guy who comes in who is just a creep. Like, and it was so weird. He used to sleep on the couch. He didn't sleep with my mom. And my mom was just like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's okay. He just likes to sleep on the couch more. Just weird things. And I never told my mom that until years later, because I'm like, well, she's, she likes this guy, and dad already left, so I'm just going to, let her ride this one out. And then eventually he actually took my brother by the neck and like lifted him to the ceiling. And we lived in like I said, a beat down trailer. So the ceilings were like, if you were standing up, you could just kind of raise your hand a little bit and you could probably touch the ceiling. It was very, very tiny. Yeah. So like he got really mad and lifted my brother up and created this huge hole in the ceiling. And when my mom got home, that's when when he did that, because he was also a little abusive, but kind of to us. When he did that, my mom was like, okay. So she got a divorce with him. And then years later, when I'm already out of school, I've already kind of tapped into this party scene. Yeah. That's when my mom met my current stepdad. Got it. He is amazing. But I will say, when she first met him, I was like, no, I wanted nothing to do with him. Really? Because, I'm like,
you got bad track record.
Yeah, you brought 2 men home, because she didn't date, really. It was like she met these people and like married them. That's kind of where my brain went. Yeah. So that's why I didn't believe in marriage. I'm like, I used to tell people would be so excited to tell me they're getting married. And Mark, I kid you not, I would sit them down and try to talk them out of it. That's how, like, just so against it.
Yeah, you were just affected. That sucks.
I said it was just a piece of paper.
Lau has this thing that she told me about, apparently, that it's like a thing that people have 3 loves in their life. Maybe it just took your mom...
it's her third one.
It took 3 big loves. It was to find the right one. Yeah. So So before we got sidetracked, you were telling me about, this period now after your dad comes home, after he disappears, you kind of got into, you already graduated high school. You're going to college, but only on the weekends. And you started drinking, you started smoking. Yeah. I want to hear, because I know, these are, man, it's a slippery slope, getting into the party scene. It really is. And, there's an element of it, and there's a group of people that are there to have fun, and then there's like a group of people that are there, and they oftentimes look like they're having the most fun.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was always the life of the party. And so I want to keep hearing about that.
Yeah. So when I first started partying, it was to have fun. And I used to tell people all the time, I never struggled with depression, anxiety. Like I really, even though I went through all of that, I would have told you when I was 18, like graduating high school, I would have told you I lived a really good life. I mean, my mom was a freaking boss. She still is. She runs like all of the 7-Elevens you've ever seen and hear, like around St. Louis. Those are her. She's a market manager, like over all the 7-Elevens in Vegas and Texas and Kansas City. Like she is a freaking boss.
Oh, she's killing it.
So, but I watched her go from like 3 jobs. You hear it all the time, like 3 jobs when we were young. And we still got everything we wanted. I mean, I still wore, I'll never forget, when buckled jeans were like,
see, I never went through that. I never went through that.
Okay, well, those were very popular when I was in high school. And I still had them because my mom worked her tail off to like make ends meet. So really to me, if someone would have looked at me and been like, oh, you live in a trailer, you probably had like a rough childhood, huh? Yes, in the sense of, okay, I grew up poor, but my mom made it happen. So I never really struggled with things like that. And when my dad left, like I told you, I just made it a big joke. So it was kind of funny at that point in time. And then as I kept partying, as I kept going out, I started getting reckless. Like when you're like tiptoeing over some things and then you like kind of dip your feet in and you're like, oh, I kind of like that. I'll do that again. I started doing that with just different things. Like I was heavily addicted to Adderall, and it started with just, taking it and studying, and then I'll maybe take it before I go out and then have some shots and then go out. It was just like tiptoeing over it. And then I got like super addicted and I got really reckless, and I used to steal, dude.
No way.
Oh my gosh, Mark, listen up. Everyone listen up. It is so bad. I used to steal everything.
Really?
Yeah. Not from people. Well, it is from people because they're business owners, I used to say that, well, it's not from like a person, so it's not bad. Well, yeah, it is. It is. Bad. You shouldn't be stealing.
Yeah.
But bad. Like I'm talking.
Like, give me an example.
Oh gosh.
Did you have a go-to spot that you're like, oh, these suckers?
The mall.
The mall?
In every store in it. I would go in, I would have, and I hope no one's about to do this, but I would go in and I would have my purse and I would throw on like the biggest hoodie I had my stealing hoodie and my stealing sweatpants, and I would wear these to the mall. And I had pliers, and I would snip all of the little metal sensors off. I would throw them in little corners of the dressing room and cover them up with, like, if they had decorations, I would put them under the decorations. Like, I was bad. I was really, really bad.
You had pliers?
I had pliers, dude. I would dress in all of these clothes. So if I had like a hoodie on and sweatpants, I had stacks of clothes under. I would just put them all on and then put my hoodie on. Be like, oh, I didn't find anything. Thank you, though. And I would just leave. And then my purse would be, there was one time where the thing went off, like the alarm. And I was so good at being deceitful, like just deceiving people, that the worker came over and I convinced this lady that maybe the alarm was just a malfunction. And I had probably like $1,000 worth of things with me, on me, like legit. And I convinced her. That's how good I was so good at it. And I felt like, I think I just fell in love with the fact that I kind of had the control, and I just kept going. And I also had a partner in crime. So it was me and my best friend. We both changed our life at the same time. But so I just started getting very reckless. And then, clothing with stealing turned, and I would steal sober at this point. But then it turned into, okay, let's take a couple shots and then let's go stealing. And then it turned into, let's actually steal alcohol. Why do we pay for alcohol? Because at this point, the only thing I was really paying for in life in general was like gas and alcohol for the weekends. It's really all I was paying for. I worked at 54th Street Bar and Grill, so I was a server, and I made, server money. You just make a bunch of cash. Yeah, you don't really know what you're making. You just make a bunch of cash and you deposit it or you keep it. And I had this idea. I'm like, well, I kind of need to start saving my money, so
I'm just gonna steal everything.
I'm just gonna steal my alcohol too, because that's where my money was going on the weekends. So now, Mark, I'm going into these stores and I'm taking off the sensor caps of alcohol and I'm freaking stealing them. So now the only thing I'm really paying for is gas for my car. And if I could steal gas, I would have.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is insane. You never got caught?
I never got caught, ever. And I think that is why, so earlier you mentioned.
It's powerful that you even changed, because usually it takes, you only learn through your own suffering, right?
Well, what like actually changed me is pretty awful. Yeah. So it took, you were saying it earlier, you're like, being hard-headed.
Hard-headed makes a soft ass, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I was so hard-headed, so stubborn, so prideful. Oh my gosh, I was gripped with pride. If anyone would tell me I was even doing, I had some friends that were like, you should probably stop doing that. And I'd be like, well, you're not my friend anymore. Like, I dropped people like flies. Yeah. It was so crazy. But so, yeah, I just had a lot of bondage all over my life. And
it's interesting that you say that you highlight how good you became at lying, or being deceitful. I don't know. I don't know what that's a product of. Mm-hmm. But I can relate to that.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's really scary because you get so good. Mm-hmm. You get so good that you believe your own lies, though.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the T-shirts that we just made?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit lying to yourself.
Quit lying to yourself. If I hadn't made that commitment to myself, I swear to God, I would not be here right now. I really wouldn't. Like, that quit lying to yourself.
Yeah.
T-shirt, and really the whole concept. The T-shirt was inspired by a podcast I was on. The podcast I was on, I told the story of that moment that I had that conversation with myself, where I always tell people, like, I never decided I was going to change my life. I never did. I never did. I never, ever, ever made that conscious decision, like, I'm not going to do this, live this lifestyle anymore. Yeah. I only decided I was going to stop lying. I just had to be honest with myself. Yeah. That's where the journal came from. Mm-hmm. The journal was because I didn't have the courage to be honest with anybody. So I had to find a place where nobody was ever going to read this, but I had to be honest, man. And the truth will really set you free.
It does.
It's so crazy, but that's so interesting to me that you pointed that out. I was so good at being deceitful.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, I think
Is it a survival mechanism?
Dude, I don't know. I think it's a hidden sin. I think hidden sins are the most, every sin is equal, but that's what I believe in. But I think anger and lying. They are those sins that you could do them every day, all day.
And nobody would know.
And no one would know, because even anger, it stirs in your heart. Because oh my gosh, at this point I struggled bad with anger, like bad. Mm-hmm. And it's those things that the enemy, because I believe there's a heaven and a hell. And I feel like that's where he really gets to toy with you, because your pride is not going to let you open up to that person and say you're a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not happening. There was no way I was telling people that I love to lie, and it was just my thing. And also, I'm not going to open up to people and say I'm angry when I'm the life of the party. Heck no. I'm not angry. I'm loving, and I'm funny, and I'm the class clown. I'm not an angry person.
Yeah.
So it's that secret sin that the enemy gets us with, is what I believe. And I think once people get through this secret sin, then they can fix all of the other.
You have to. It's a prerequisite.
Yeah.
I talk with the guys in the men's group and because to quit lying to yourself, the whole campaign really generated a lot of meaningful and valuable conversation. But I'm like, until you cross that bridge where you can be honest, at least with yourself, it's impossible to
really
come
is.
to the best version of you, or even you can't even get close to it. Like I had to take it so seriously. And I think this is why a lot of people never see the best version of themselves, because they tolerate this in themselves. But I had to take it so seriously where I would have a conversation. I don't know if you ever went through this, but maybe you can, because that sounds like we went through something similar in this respect. But where I would have a casual conversation, and the lies would come so easy, right? So easy, and I would say something, and then I would walk away, and it would be a little lie. It didn't mean anything. It would be stupid, and I would force myself to go back and tell them, no, I'm sorry.
Yep. I went through this.
I actually, because until you do that,
it's like a job.
Until you do that, those little lies, they never stop. They never stop, because, you say, you acknowledge it in your head, and you're like, damn, why did I lie about that?
Yes.
And then that's so dumb. I didn't even have to lie. Why did I lie about that? But, dude, I am a huge, I don't know if I've ever talked publicly about this. I have a little bit. I'm a huge believer in, what do they call it in religion? Where you make where you not
I wish I could read your mind.
Not like confession, where you make amends,
confess,
reconciliation. There's anyway. I'm a huge believer that there has to be accountability. There has to be a punishment.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging something and saying I'm sorry is not it. I used to do this thing with myself where if I was trying to stop doing something, I'd be like, okay, if I do it, here's the consequence.
Yeah.
Okay? And if I did it, I would hold myself accountable. I'll give you a perfect example. So I go through these phases. I swear a lot. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not ashamed of it. I feel like there's worse things. I'm a good person and I try really hard. And so language is powerful. And I've operated as a salesperson in some respect for my whole life. And one of my greatest strengths as a salesperson is that I can almost immediately build really great rapport with people. It puts them at ease. Yeah. And the language that I use is partially intentional, because when I speak to you as if you're my best friend and we've been friends this whole time, and it puts you at ease immediately. Yeah. So sometimes the swear words are a part of that. But I go through these phases where I'm like, okay, you're swearing too much. And so I'll play this game with myself. For every swear word that you say throughout the day, you have to run a mile, and you owe yourself and you owe it before you go to sleep. I swear there has been days where I run 10 miles after a 12-hour day at work, and I come home and I'm like, I got 10 check marks. All right, and I go run. But I'm a huge believer in holding yourself accountable. You have to make amends for it. If there's no consequence, there will be no correction. And so to the point that we're talking about, when you find yourself habitually making these small little lies and you mindfully acknowledge it, you say, oh, why did I lie? That was so dumb. But you don't actually, there's no consequence for the action. Like human beings are like that. We're programmable, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. So I learned that lesson through my commitment to stop lying. Like I would go back and it would be so embarrassing.
The pride, man.
It would be so embarrassing to have to go to somebody and be like, that was so dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know why I lied about that, but that's not true. Here's the reality. And I'd walk away feeling like a total dumbass. But you know what? Man.
You have to.
Oh my my God, it's so liberating. It's because now I don't want to do that again. It's not the lie that I'm actually running from.
Yeah.
It's the consequence. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Did you go through that?
Oh, I did. And I don't know if you're thinking of this, so being convicted and then repenting. Are you
repenting.
Thinking of those? Yeah.
That's the word.
I was like, I think I know what he's talking about.
I am a huge believer in repentance.
Yes.
When I do something, man, I apologize to God, to my parents, to myself.
Yeah.
And then I go back and I try to, there's a consequence. And it's not always, I don't always get to make amends with the person, but there's a consequence. And I hold myself accountable. And some people think that this is I've been chastised about this online because they say it's very unhealthy. It's very unhealthy thing to do. It's
one of the healthiest things.
Punish yourself. No, I fucking disagree. Half the reason your life looks like shit is because you don't hold yourself accountable, motherfucker. What are you talking about?
That's so interesting that someone would say that is unhealthy.
Well, because you can, and I have, but you can take it to an extreme, right? You really can. Like, for example.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
For example, like I had an eating disorder at one point. Mm-hmm. You know?
I didn't know that.
I had an eating disorder. Like when I got sober and I stopped using drugs, I sort of replaced it with food. And then I knew this was not going to be, this wasn't good. I was just binging food. And so then I set some rules for myself, some parameters. And every time I would go outside of those parameters, you know what I would do? Go make myself throw up.
Yeah.
So like, it can be unhealthy.
Absolutely. Okay.
So they had a good point, but like generally speaking, I think that most people really need to be better about repenting and making amends. And there's a consequence. Like set some standards. If there's something that you habitually do that is keeping you from being the best version of yourself, set a rule. Okay, every time I do this, here's what I'm gonna do for myself, and I promise you, your life will change. It's so good.
Yeah, and people know. Like it's literally called conviction. People know when they're doing something and they should not be doing it. Oh, like, and I love when people are like, well, I don't really know. I'm like, just think about it.
If you have to say, I don't really know, but you know. Okay, how about that?
You do know. You do know. Like, you just don't want to do anything about it. So you just talk yourself out of it, which I get it. I'm not
That's
placing
cool.
blame because I've been there too. Like, it's really hard to get out of that spiral, you know? But
did you have to go and apologize to people when you?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had to apologize to a lot of people. Yeah. Because I was just so like lying was my second nature. I didn't even, or I guess my first.
Wouldn't even think about it.
And then it's like, to me, I felt like that was the first thing the Lord worked on when I gave my life to Christ. And this was after all of like my partying and stuff. This was only in 2018. So it wasn't that long ago, but that was the first thing that I got convicted over. Like, I just felt like the Lord was like, we are immediately fixing that. So everything, it's like you ran a mile. My thing was I had to like confront it to God, and I hated that. Like I get very convicted easily even now. Like that's why you'll never hear me cuss. If I'm being honest, I used to cuss like a sailor. I don't think you're a bad person for cussing, but me personally,
it's just a boundary you've drawn. I get it.
I can't do it because the way that I think is I don't want to look like what I used to look like. I'm very big on that. So if I ever look like how I did, then to me personally, something needs to change. And there's some videos I've found of myself, and you probably would never be able to imagine this. Yeah. I cussed way more than you, Mark. Yeah. Way, like every other sentence was a cuss word. Yeah. It was unnecessary, honestly. I don't know why.
It's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know what happens every time I try to eradicate swear words from my vocabulary is my vocabulary immediately expands. Like it expands so much. Like, cause I've read a lot. Yeah. I mean, I literally used to read the dictionary. So like I have an extensive vocabulary, and I can speak. You know, I think this is a great strength of mine. If you're from where I'm from and you don't know much and you have a very limited vocabulary, I can relate to you, and I can speak to you in your language. But if you're also highly educated, like my friend that I met the other day, I can speak to you too, and
you're adaptable.
And I can speak to you in your language. Yeah. But every time I stop swearing, I find that I use swear words as like blanket words that just mean everything. So now I have to actually use real words. It's so funny.
Everyone's like, Mark is much smarter today. Like, what's going on?
For real?
Why is he talking like that?
That's right. Yeah.
That is so funny.
You know, it's so cool that you say that you think that the swearing, or excuse me, the lying was the first thing that God really worked on you.
100%.
I just, in my head, when you said that, I said, I don't think it's a coincidence that, because my concept for the shirt, and we also had a roast, a limited edition roast of our coffee that is bagged in a bag that has the quit lying to yourself.
I saw that.
It has one of my favorite quotes about truth on it. The concept there is that's just a seed that I intend to grow over time. And I want to eventually have a whole line of clothing and merchandise that every limited edition release is going to have a message behind it. And the message is meant to, if you receive it, it will enrich your life. Okay. And so every launch from this point forward will be a limited edition. We'll only sell it once, and but they'll always have, an in-your-face message behind it. And I just, when you said that, I said, man, I don't think it's a coincidence that the quit lying to yourself was the first one.
Heck yeah. Shut up.
I really don't.
That's what you're getting at. Oh my gosh.
I don't think it was a coincidence
That's
that
the first
quit lying
thing.
to yourself was the first one, because that was the first. Swear, I'm not saying this because we're having this conversation. That was the first. That was what changed my life. Like I said, I never decided I was going to change my life.
Yeah.
I only decided I was going to quit lying. And you're saying, and your journey, you think that was the first thing that God started working on you on.
100%. Yeah, because anyone can like clean up their life for
clean it
other
up.
people to see that
For
they've
other
cleaned it
people.
up. But it goes back to that like secret sin. If you, take me for example, if I quit abusing alcohol, if I quit abusing drugs, and I get rid of Adderall, and I quit having sex with whoever the heck I want, if I quit all of these things, people see that. So I look like I've gotten my life together. But if I'm still lying, and if I still struggle with anger, I still look like I have my life together.
You're
but
still
I'm
the same person.
still the same person. Yeah. The same exact person.
100%.
Yeah.
Another thing that you just said that I really love is that you don't swear because you don't want to look like the person you used to be. One of the most powerful realizations I ever had in my whole life was that at any point, in any moment, you can choose to show up as somebody completely different than the person you were the moment before. Like one of the questions that I've journaled on extensively is, what does the absolute best version of me look like? And we do this in the men's group. We do it in the women's group.
I love that.
We really take the time to think about it. What does that paint the picture of what that person looks like? And in the beginning, when I first started journaling about this, I was still in prison, and I used to think about the best version of me as like this, like almost like a long-term goal, like something to work towards. And in some senses it is. Like if you say he's financially successful, right? Well, you can't change that. But like his character, what does that look like?
Yeah.
One day I realized that like I used to imagine that I was working toward that every day, and I would chip away at it. It was productive to do that. But one day I was like, well, why don't I just show up like I'm right now?
I can literally be that person right now.
I could be that person today, Yeah. And one of the craziest things, the confirmation of that being real, because I tell people that, but I'm still broke, and I still, whatever. Okay. But one of the confirmations of that being real is, to this day, when I tell people I spent 5.5 years in prison, I only been home from prison for a couple years. I really did. I started over a couple years ago. And they literally don't believe me. Like I've had people that literally don't believe me. Be like, nah, there's no way. And it's confirmation in the sense that like I chose to show up as somebody completely different. And to you, to me, that version of you that you were, it literally doesn't even exist. Like I can't even.
Good.
I can't even, for real. No, for real.
Yeah.
Like that version of you does exist in the world, and there's some people here
Absolutely.
that remember that version of you. But especially because you're young, and because when I started over, I was young, we're going to meet more new people in our life than we have met so far.
Yeah.
So by the time this is over, there's going to be this whole, group of people that they can't even imagine a different version of you. And so if you're somebody that's not proud of the way you've shown up thus far, up until this point, or even at a specific moment in your life, and you beat yourself up over it, you got to understand that there's an almost infinite amount of people that you could potentially meet today. And you start redefining yourself and the way that people think about you and the way that people remember you, like immediately.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you choose to start showing up differently. And it's that's a really cool thing that you've identified, which is like, I don't swear because she swore.
That is so good. Yeah. I always say, I was going through like an identity crisis before, but I know who I am now.
I love that.
Yeah, we're good now. But and one thing I want to note though is I used to like ask God, why in the world did I have to go through all of that? Like why did it take all of this to get me to where I am now? And this is when I had back in 2018, when I first started playing around with my faith, excuse me, and doing all of that. And now I wouldn't take anything back.
Nothing.
Because you know what? I am so good at, and I'm just going to like brag on myself for a little bit. I'm so good at hearing people out. And if someone is struggling with what I used to struggle with, I'm so glad that I know how to talk to them and how I know how to relate to them and get them through whatever they're going through. And also, Christians make me mad. Like some Christians make me so mad because they don't understand how to actually talk to people who are like currently going through something. How to help them. They think just throw this at them and whatever. And that's really frustrating to me. So I think God has really put it on my heart to be the Christian, yes, because I love Jesus, but also understand where these people are coming from. Don't judge them. We are not supposed to judge people who don't know Christ. Like, we're not supposed to.
You know what I would say is there are people who, because I've gotten very upset with what I would say is Christianity. And I would even be so bold as to say the majority of Christians.
Wait till I tell you what I have to say.
I'm sorry, for real. Like I don't go to church, and it's not because I don't believe. I'm a believer. And I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. Like, I try really hard. Like, I really do.
Yeah.
I operate with the intent is there, everything that I do. And I'm not perfect, but I try really hard, earnestly, and I hold myself accountable when I fall short. And I go to church and I look to my left and I look to my right, and it's like, man, a lot of you guys ain't even trying. You're not even, you say, oh, well, I accept Jesus as my savior, so I'm good. Like, I'm sorry.
Which I was there too.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's not I'm not okay with that. I'm not, it's not enough. It's not enough for me. You have to try. And, I don't know. That was just a thought that popped into my head.
I'm glad you said it.
For real.
I'm glad you said it.
You got to try. You know, you really do. And it bothers me a lot. It really bothers me. Like, it really, because, man, I see people on the internet specifically that post people of influence.
They're bad.
People of influence. Like, I'm talking, you got a couple 100,000 followers, couple million followers. You post about the Bible every day, but you're making yourself a sex symbol on the internet, or any number of things. You're setting a very bad example of what it looks like. Or shaming people. Yeah, there's the innumerable examples, and it's like, these are simple things. This is not something.
This is not hard.
This is a choice you're making every day to be okay with being with coming up short. And it hurts my heart. It really, really does, because what I actually interrupted you to say is, there are people who, when you meet them, they don't even have to talk about God. They don't have to bring up Christ. And I mean, truly, I'm going to be fair and say there's people from every faith that I have met personally that make this impression on me. Mm-hmm. They inspire me to want to be religious. They inspire me to want to follow their faith, because I say to myself, man, that person's different. That person's different. What's so different about them?
Yeah.
For real, what's so different about them? Yeah. And you're one of those people. Oh, I just want you to know that. For real. No, you're one of those people. That. Like, when you meet you, you know, I can't imagine somebody meeting you and not being like, holy shit, what's different? You just make that the first time. My friend Maggie, my best friend, I don't talk to her as often right now. She's got 4 kids. She's dealing
maybe
with
check in.
Dealing with a lot. I hit her up the other day. She's like, listen, I got 4 kids. They're all homesick. My husband's out of town. I'm gonna call you tomorrow. So, but God bless her. My friend Maggie's one of those people. She's a Catholic, and man, we must have been friends 3 years before she even brought up, religion. Her mom is like a, it's crazy.
Devout.
Oh,
the devout. I grew up Catholic.
Yeah, I would go visit her in Minnesota. Maggie's from Minnesota. And her mom would always have like a gift for me. And it was always something that's like blessed by the Pope. To this day, the only keychain on my key ring is from her mom. It's a cross that was blessed by the Pope. And she knows things.
She probably prayed over it, blessed it with anointing oil, all the things.
But she's one of those people, Maggie, that like, as I got to know her better, she just is unwavering in how good of a person she is. Like, she has rules and she never breaks them. Never. And I was just, it came out over the years of like, no, this isn't good. And the reason why it's not good is because the book says it's not good. Like, that, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. But I've also met one of the other people. Maggie is definitely the most powerful example of that I've ever met. And you are a perfect example of it. And I had a friend that I met in prison. His name was Taha, who was a Muslim. He's from Yemen. Crazy dude. But, man, his discipline inspired me so much.
Even in prison.
Oh, my gosh, dude. It inspired me. So his discipline to his practice, which is, it's hefty. It's not like Christianity's kind of light. You just, you walk around, you pray as you're moving. He would just set up his rug and.
Oh, you get,
You know what I mean? His practice was like, he would wake up, he'd have to wash his hands and his face a certain way and do all the, dude, he was, but also his character and his he was just unwavering, even in prison, even in such a toxic environment.
That's what's crazy in prison.
Such a good dude. He inspired me so much. So anyway, you're one of those people. That's what I interrupted you to
I
say.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
But most of Christians that I see out here, man, it
gets bad.
Bothers me so much.
Yeah.
Like, you'll wear a cross around your neck.
For a fashion statement.
For an OnlyFans photo? You know what I mean?
Mark, don't let me find out. Don't let me find out who that person is.
You know what I mean?
Because I can still get a little spicy.
You know what I mean? I do. I've called people out, and now I'm like, you know what? That's not the fight that God wants me to fight.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's not my fight. I'm fighting. I'm fighting. I really feel like I'm a soldier out here.
Yeah.
Like, every day when I pray, I'm like, just, the only thing I ever ask for is guidance.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I love that.
I'd be interested in hearing, but the only thing that I ever ask for, that I pray for thanks. I say thank you, thank you, thank you, gratitude, 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 and I don't ever ask for anything in particular, because I've learned over time that I don't know what's in. I don't know
what's good.
I don't know my path.
Yeah.
I don't even pray for specific things for other people. Like, if you're going through something, I won't pray that it works out the way.
Dang, boy.
No.
I was just kidding.
I won't pray that it works out the way I think it should work out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Some of the worst things that's ever happened to me have been the best things that ever happened to me. So I don't want to, I think God taught me that lesson. Yeah. I think it's crazy that I would, pretend like I know what's best for you. I don't know what's best for you. He does, so the only thing I ever ask for is guidance, and I say, where you lead me, I will follow.
It's a great
faithful
prayer.
servant. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Every day I pray that the Lord keep me desperate for him. Because what he'll knock you on your feet or on your knees if you pray this prayer. Because we have busy lives. My life is so freaking busy. And I know yours is too. We're always doing something. And it's good. I think we're all called to work and we're all called to do things. But we're also called to rest whenever the Lord says rest. But
He didn't tell me that.
For what? He didn't tell. He said no to resting. He said, "Q, why are you resting?" Yeah. But yeah, that the Lord make me desperate for him every day, because what I do, I'm very good at like go, 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 go. And I schedule out my rest time now because I have to. I gotta. Yeah. But I'm very good with go, 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 that sometimes I just forget to like pray, or I'll forget to read my Bible, or I'll forget to go to church. I need the church. I just had to find a good one. I've been through so many churches, but just the community and stuff is awesome, and worshiping with people. But if I pray that prayer, Lord, make me desperate for you, I know for a fact he's going to always pull me out of, if I'm being blinded or if I'm like not using him. And I know that's kind of sounds like a bad term, but he wants us to lean on him, right. He wants that. So I pray that, and I always pray like, God, let your will be done, which is similar to what you're saying. I do pray for things. If I feel like God's put something on my heart, I pray, Lord, like make this happen. You put this on my heart. What do I need to do to make this happen? Things like that. But also the Bible talks about, what the enemy meant for evil, God turns to good. And it's so that we glorify him. And I lean on that scripture so much, because there is so much evil that's happened in my life. Do I think God caused it? No, I don't think God causes evil, but he does turn it to good. I think we live in a fallen world, and we were born into a fallen world ever since Adam and Eve, that's just the world we live in. And that's why this world is not heaven. Heaven is eternal life, and this is just what I believe. But I think with me, that prayer, Lord, let your will be done, it's just anything bad can happen in my life. And I will literally look at the storm and be like, Lord, let your will be done.
That's right. No, for real.
Not sure what's happening, but
there's only two perspectives you can take when something bad is happening in your life. And man, if more people would just come to terms with it, it's like I said to that professor the other day, I was like, whoever told you that it was going to be fair? I was venting about the victim mentality in our, in particularly in America, and the sense of entitlement that I see in everybody. And I'm like, whoever told you,
where'd you get that?
I said this to my friend James the other day. I'm like, bro, you didn't ask to be here. You didn't fill out an application or, be invited. You didn't wait in line for this opportunity. You just showed up here. You were gifted an opportunity at life. How dare you complain about the inequities? How dare you whine that somebody else has it different than you do? Oh man,
this is right up my alley.
You want to really set me off? That's that's how it is. But that was me. I can say that with conviction, and I mean it. And I'm really angry at you.
It's a righteous anger, and it's in the Bible.
Exactly.
It's biblical. So
I'm really angry with you right now, because that used to be me. I used to be like, oh, my brother died. Oh, my mom this. Oh, this and that. And oh, I was abused in all these ways, and poor me. No. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm healthy. I'm fit. I'm intelligent. Yeah. Man, thank you. Oh, and as soon as your attitude changes about that, your whole life changes. It really does. Yeah.
I always say the only person who sits with you at a pity party is the devil. And if you think like that, I bet you won't be throwing any pity parties. I bet you.
You got some gems.
I bet you. Yeah.
You're gonna be this old lady that just drops jewels on people.
Just rocking in my chair. My grandkids are sitting around. So what are you going through?
I see you sitting over there pouting. The only person sitting with you is the devil.
I hope I'm like that.
Yeah. Dude, so I want to circle back and we started to work through sort of your adulthood, your early adulthood, diving into what sounds like alcoholism, addiction with the Adderall, and your preoccupation with theft.
Yeah, yikes.
When did it all start to turn around?
So I'm an interesting story, because I was spiraling a little bit, probably for like a year, I would say. And then I was literally doing whatever I wanted to do. It got to the point where it was, even some of my friends were like, hey, you're going a little bit too far with stuff like this. I actually started fighting.
That is so funny.
Dude, all these scars on my hands are from street fights. Bet you didn't guess that.
You know what?
All
you
of
look
the
like
scars.
You might beat up,
broken pinky, literally,
no way.
From street fighting. I used to literally. They're like, who the heck is this girl?
Listen.
I was just so angry, but the reason I started fighting is, and I pinpoint this years later. Yes, anger. Yes, struggling with a lot, but I was always defending a friend. Yeah. Like, I got into this habit of, if someone would look at a friend the wrong way, and it could have been so innocent, like even if it was traffic. I remember trying to get this girl to pull over, and she was like way bigger than me. I didn't see that. I thought I could just take everyone. But maybe because she cut my friend off in traffic, like little things like that just made me so angry. But it got really bad. Like, I went to the gym one time and met this girl there. She didn't know I was coming, and just beat her up. Yeah. Could you imagine?
Gym?
It was a gym out in, what's the place out in Hillsboro? Pretty far. 'Cause I grew up in Imperial.
But not like a global gym, not like a Planet Fitness.
No, it was like a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Still kind of big, but like
That's
24 hour.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So just getting, like I said earlier, just very reckless, not caring about a lot. And some friends started leaving because they're like, you're a little bit too crazy for us now. And I could totally see why they would do that. And then I ended up moving out of my parents' house, which this is when my mom had already divorced that second, or I guess my first stepdad, and she was just dating my stepdad currently. She was just dating him, and he didn't live with us or anything. They were just seeing each other. But I didn't want to be around him.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no. So I moved out, and I had lived kind of back and forth at different friends' house. I've lived out of my car before, all these things, but this move out, I actually moved into one of my friends' houses. I had a room and everything like that. And it just got worse, because now, before I would go home and my mom would be like, hey, you good? Is everything okay? And I would have to lie through my teeth. Like, yeah, everything's fine. But now I don't have my mom there. Like, now I'm literally living with my friend.
Yeah.
It was actually in her parents' house, but her parents were very chill. Like, did not ask questions, because I get convicted very easily. Yeah. Even before I knew God, I always just felt guilty if I knew I was doing something wrong. So they didn't ask questions. They didn't like, where are you going? When are you coming back? They didn't care about any of that. So I had full freedom, full control over everything. And so I start seeing this guy, and I was probably seeing him for like a month and a half. Not long at all. I mean, and I only saw him on the weekends, because he went to a college. So I would just go travel there, seeing him for a month and a half, and I get pregnant.
Whoa.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet you didn't hear that.
Definitely.
See that coming?
Woo. Mic check, 1, 2.
Everyone good out there? Yeah. So I get pregnant, and immediately flooded with my mom being a single mom. I don't even know this guy. I have no idea. Like, a month and a half of just sleeping around. We weren't actually like serious. And just going, like, the whole marriage thing. Like, I'm like, I'm not marrying that guy, because in my head, yes, I didn't agree with marriage, but if you're going to have a kid, like in my head, I'm like, I don't even know this guy, let alone I could never marry. Like just thoughts running through my brain. I'm also a server.
It's interesting because even when you've gotten to this place where you tell yourself, I don't believe in marriage. It's like we inherently know that when it gets real and there's a baby that could potentially come into this world, the way it's supposed to be is a man, woman raising this child
in a marriage.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Okay.
And I knew that, and I wouldn't have said that. So before I had gotten pregnant, I would have never said that. I would have just been like, you can do whatever you want. I don't agree with getting married, but whatever. You can get pregnant, like whatever. But after getting pregnant and actually sitting in those thoughts, I'm like, I think like marriage actually is, I think I'm supposed to get married. And then I'm sitting in the thought of, but I don't even know this person. And it just was this game like back and forth. So I remember I called my mom and I told her immediately, because me and my mom were very close at this point. And just a reminder, I did not know the Lord at this point at all. So I call my mom immediately and I'm like, Mom, I'm pregnant, and I'm like bawling. And she's excited. And I don't have a baby now.
Yeah.
So my mom is excited. She's like, it's okay. Like we're gonna work on this. We're gonna get through this. It's okay if he's not in the picture. Like this, and this. And I'm freaking out because now if I get an abortion, my mom's gonna be so disappointed. And I can't keep, like, this is where my brain's going. I can't keep the baby because I can't afford the baby. You know, all the excuses people make.
Oh, yeah.
And I was that person. I had like I made a pros and con list.
Ooh.
Dude, I did.
I mean,
I did.
It's a logical thing to do.
Yeah. And literally the only good thing on that list was my mom was happy. So I was just going back and forth. I told 2 friends, that's it. And I made the decision that I was going to get an abortion. Never would have. So I would have said at that time I was pro-choice. Like I was the person who was like, it's your body, your life, do whatever you want. And here's the thing. I'm not ragging on those people.
Never.
But yeah. And I just want to make that very clear.
If you asked me to vote, I know some people are going to hate this, but I would probably vote pro-choice. Like whatever you do with your body is not my decision to make. Like I just know that abortion is not for me. Like that's kind of like when the topic comes up, because I really generally don't. For example, during COVID, I didn't get vaccinated. Okay.
I didn't either. And I never will.
It's neither. I don't say that to alienate anybody. For real, I don't. This is my body. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. And so it was the first time in my life as a man having to really put myself in that shoe, in those shoes. Like, you're not about to tell me what I need to do with my body.
Oh, with the vaccination.
Yeah, it was the first time in my life as a man that I was in the shoes of a woman who wanted to do something for herself that everybody else seems to have an opinion on, So if I were to vote, like I said, like after that, because I feel very strongly that I'm not getting vaccinated. I take care of myself. I'm not, right. and I don't really care. I made the decision. I was informed myself. I made an informed decision on the risk that I run by being unvaccinated, and I choose to incur that risk. If you choose to do something, like, hey, on you. But like it's the same. It's that's how I feel about it now. It's kind of the same. Like I don't want to take that freedom away from anybody. I'm very pro freedom. I'm very, very pro freedom.
That's what most people are. I am so.
As a Christian now, I would imagine you're like.
Well, actually.
Okay.
So I disagree with everything you just said.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But I had that thought before I was ever even considering God. Like I used to be a hardcore atheist, but going through that, and people are going to do what they're going to do, mm-hmm. and they always will. But I don't think anyone will ever actually understand what abortion is unless you've gotten an abortion. Mm-hmm. And I think most people, if you look up, which most people probably don't look this up because they haven't gotten an abortion, but if you look into stories of people who have gotten an abortion and like what they're saying about it, most of them were pro-choice and now they're pro-life, and
they regret it.
Yeah, it's not like a
I think it's right that you have to
It's interesting.
You have to live with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm really particular about like that professor being like, "Oh, it's reproductive health." No, it's abortion.
Yeah. Say the word.
Yeah, it's abortion, and you're aborting a child.
Yeah, you're killing the child.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people who have gotten, and I'm trying to like make sure I tread lightly. I don't want to.
This is a very divisive topic.
It is, and that's why I'm like, Lord, why does this have to be my testimony? Like, come on. But I think it's one of those things where if you've actually gotten an abortion,
exactly, you can speak from experience.
You actually realize like what killing, like what that word actually.
You're killing a baby.
Means you're killing a human. Mm-hmm. Like and I think people who have never gotten an abortion, they will truly never understand. So people who believe what you just said, I'm pro-choice, you can do whatever you want, I don't care.
I'm pro-choice for you.
For you, but not for me. Yeah. Hold on. Correct me.
Make this clear.
Yeah. But people who say that, I think I have a lot of grace for them mm-hmm. because
they don't know.
They don't know. And I don't think they ever truly will. I had a really hard, like just an interesting conversation with some friends about this too, because my friends were getting so worked up over this, because as they should,
it's a hard topic,
especially if you believe in, the Bible says thou shall not kill. It's one of the 10 commandments. So this is murder. So you are going against biblical instruction if you're doing this. But so if you believe that, then of course it's going to be like, you're going to get mad if mm-hmm. people are doing this. But at the same time, I think God has really used me in a way that, oh my gosh, I never would have thought I would be used in this way, but to understand where people are coming from when it comes to abortion, because I was there. I was the person like, it's your body, you do whatever you want. But now I'm like, well, no, it's like the baby. It's a living being.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they come against that thought, and I understand why they do. Like I completely get it. It's tough.
It's so tough because in one sense, the way I feel, dude, it really, dude, if I think about it too much, I get mad, because my mom was the type of person that shouldn't have had kids. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't bring kids and if you can't take care of these children, if you're not taking that responsibility seriously, you know what I mean? Like, dude, mm-hmm. I was abandoned in crack houses for like days and days at a time, like abused in a myriad of ways by strangers, you know, like you know, people like that, man, they get me so mad. And it is frustrating, dude. And then they're the ones that are out here yelling, "Oh, pro-choice, my body, my choice," because they, mm-hmm. because they are lousy human beings, and they're out here sleeping with whoever they want. Yeah. Whenever they get an itch, and then they get pregnant, and they want an out. Yeah. Okay, and the easy solution is to get an abortion, and like, so trust me, I feel you. But at the same time, what I want to say to those people is like, you're a fucking adult. Mm-hmm. Like, there is ways to have safe sex. There's also something called self-control, mm-hmm. where you don't just sleep with every single person.
Gosh, I wish I had you.
You know what I mean?
Just drill it in me.
Yeah, but no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because everybody knows that, you know? And we just live in this gluttonous culture where, like, every single urge and impulse and desire we satisfy. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? That's some weak-ass shit. that is some weak ass shit. The strongest people out here are people that practice self-restraint.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, but it's a chicken or the egg. It's a catch-22. Like, you know, if we're going to continue to have all these people, this is why I'm like, you know, I'm opting out of this discussion. There's bigger battles for me to fight. You do you.
I would like to opt out as well.
Yeah, you do you, and I'm just gonna make sure that I've made my choice.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway. Yeah.
No, it's one of the hardest things to talk about. Like, I am an open book, and I will always talk about anything I believe in, and I will always hear people out. And I tend to understand when people are talking to me. There's never been a time where I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, you know, because I do understand. It's just tough. That topic is just so
tough.
It's a sticky situation, and I'm still learning more about it. You know, I've experienced it, and yes, I do regret it, and I can't, you know, go back, and my life would look very different if I kept the baby. But I do like to make it clear that I wish I did keep the baby. You know, I wish, obviously my life is great right now, but it's one of those things. And then I read all of these other testimonies of all these other women, so many who have had all of these abortions. And I'm like, everyone regrets it. So that's how I look at it, from like, yes, the Bible says this is wrong, but also,
what do people who've been there say?
Yeah, what are they saying? Like, the people who've actually gotten an abortion, and they all say the same exact thing. Don't do it. Don't do it. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. But I want to go back to like the whole Christian thing. When I was walking into the abortion clinic, oh gosh, I was not a Christian whatsoever. I did not know the Lord. I didn't, no. And I'm walking into this clinic, and there is a group of people holding crosses. Dude, this is when I really spiraled. They're holding crosses, like freaking like pitchfork thingies. Yeah. It was a movie. Yeah. I'm not joking. They've got a cross in one hand, a picture of a dead baby in the other. A graphic picture that's like enlarged of a dead baby in the other. And they're saying, kill yourself. If you're going to kill the baby, kill yourself. They are screaming as I'm walking in. They're screaming for me to kill myself. Yeah. So they have a cross. It's not funny. They have a cross. What? They have a picture of a dead baby, and they are screaming, kill yourself. And do you know, I ran so fast into that abortion clinic, and I just wanted to get it over with even quicker, because I was terrified of them. Like, terrified of the people who are claiming to like be these Christians. Yeah. And I say to this day, I'm like, I think if someone would have pulled me aside and been like, hey, before you go through with this, what are your fears? Like, what's actually keeping you from keeping the baby? If someone would have actually walked me through all the fears and actually told me it could be okay. It really could.
Rock bottom in your head is never as bad as you think it's going to be.
It's not.
It's really not.
It's not.
Yeah, we could go on a totally different podcast for this, but it's really never as bad as you think it's going to be. For real.
We really could. I could just go on and on about that, but yeah, I got the abortion, and immediately, I don't want to get into graphic, but immediately regretted it. So it was one of those things where, within 30 seconds after, like, still on the table, I regretted it. And that is a very like crucial detail to like what happens next, because when you are living in regret like that and you can't like forgive yourself, you just become,
and there's no repentance from that.
Because
you can't take it back.
And I didn't know God, so what the heck am I repenting to? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just like, this is who I am. And then I started comparing myself to my dad, because he killed someone. Yeah. So I started saying things like, I'm just like him. How could I do this?
That's crazy.
Like, so then there was this like battle of, who am I? You know, I don't know who I am. I'm this and that. I went through the house, like the house I lived in, I had this room, like I mentioned before, and I had one of those tall mirrors, and I had like a mirror on my door or something like that. And I took them down because I couldn't look at myself. I was terrified of the dark. I think I was just being tormented. I had really bad nightmares. I would have these crazy dreams. So that's why I got addicted to Adderall. So I didn't sleep. So I would pop an Adderall when it was bedtime, and I would lay down and just stare at the ceiling with my lamp on because I was scared of the dark. Because every time I would turn the lamp off, I felt like I saw things.
Wow.
Is that crazy? Yeah. So got super addicted to the Adderall, and I would probably get like 1 hour of sleep a night only because my body like forced myself to go to sleep. Would wake up, go to work. Hey guys.
Fine.
Hey.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. You know, my mom would text me, hey, how are you doing? Because she knew, of course, about the abortion. And I'd be like, I'm doing so good. You know, I never thought I would come out like this strong. Like crazy stuff as I'm just crying, as I'm sending these texts to my mom. So she never knew how bad it was. And then it went from like all the partying and stuff went from fun, living the life, going from college town to college town, like all this stuff, to like addiction. Yeah. Like bad. Yeah. So before I was just tiptoeing. I was just having fun. Now I'm like, I have to go to work drunk. I can't go sober. Like I would go up, and I was a server. I would go up to these tables and I'd be like, hey guys, how are we today? And if someone would tell me I'm doing good, it was like a trigger because I knew I wasn't. So I'd have to go in the bathroom, take a shot, go back out.
No way.
Yeah. It became a huge problem.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So this happened for about 6 months. And then my friend, so the girl who was my partner in crime, she actually gave her life to Christ before me. And she was bad. Like, she was way worse than me. I actually didn't even want to be friends with her at first because she was like too crazy for me. And I was crazy. So this was like a huge deal. And she was like, hey, I've been going to this church lately. You should really come. She had been saying this for a few months. And I'm like, no. You will. I would say things like, you would never catch me dead going in a place where people act like they know this God. And I was bad. Didn't believe in any of it. And she's like, she kept planting those seeds, kept texting me. I'm getting worse and worse. Like I'm seeing things because I'm so out of it.
Just delirious, probably.
Developed an eating disorder. I can relate to you on that. I would puke everything up because mine was more of I felt like I didn't deserve really anything, like nothing. So it was like I was slowly killing myself, slowly, you know? And earlier you said I didn't have the courage to do it. And I also didn't have the courage to do it, just like get it done. But I said, well, if I don't have the courage to actually do it and like end my life right now, then I'll just slowly do it.
100%. I know.
I'll just do as many drugs as I can and drink as much as I can, and I'll take as much Adderall and lose sleep. I'll puke up my food. I will do anything I can to make sure that I'm living a life of hell, like literal hell, because I didn't feel like I belonged, you know? So my friend finally texted me because I had taken off work for like a month. And that's when it was like bad because I didn't want people to see me. I didn't want them to ask questions. So I'm just like, hey, can you not put me on the schedule? Because, you know, serving, if you've ever been a server, you just kind of tell your boss when you want to work, when you don't. So I'm like, can you not put me on the schedule for like a month? And I'm just, you know, I'm really busy on like doing side things. Got a lot of family stuff going on, you know, lying through my teeth. And my friend found out that I had taken off, and she's like, you will be going to church with me this Sunday. And I'm like, no, I won't. And we went back and forth. And this was when we were 6 months out. So I had been going through all of this for a long time. And she's like, no, please, like, you have to. And I went with her. I saw so many people I knew. So many people. And the pride set in.
It's probably embarrassing.
Oh, my gosh. It was so embarrassing. Like, I was like, there's no way. I'm not putting my hands up. I'm not praying. I'm not telling the pastor when he says, like, you're going through this. I'm not saying it's me. I'm not doing any of that. And I think that was the enemy to just like really seeing all of these people that I went to high school with to really set my pride on fire. And then the pastor, legit, Mark, I can't make this up. The pastor looked directly at me. He pointed at me from the stage. I cannot make this up. He points at me, and my friend was right by me, and he literally goes like this. Like, so he made sure I saw that he was talking to me, and he goes, I know you're struggling with depression. I know you're anxious. And he said, I know you feel like you're not worthy. And he said, give it to God. And he's pointing like with the mic like this. And I like melted. I'm like, did he actually just say that? I look over to my friend. I'm like, did you hear that? She goes, you have to go up there. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to go up there. And because he was doing like an altar call, like come up and give it to God. And I'm like, I don't have to go up there to give it to God. I'm going to give it to God right here. I can stay right here. Yeah. And then he goes, I know you want to, I can't make this up. He said, I know you want to stay right there, but you have to walk out of what you're going through. Like you have to walk forward. And I'm huge on alliterations. Or illustrations. I'm like, that's just how my brain works. So when he said that, I like pictured myself walking out of this like baggage, I can't even explain it, but I could picture it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go up there. So I went up there and I like dropped to my knees and I'm like, God, I don't know what to say, but everyone says that you can help. Can you please help me? That's all I said. And for the first time in like that 6 months, I just went and I took the biggest breath ever. And I was actually like immediately healed from that anxiety. Cause it felt like, the way I describe it is it felt like there were like balls of just socks just in my chest, like where it was so hard to breathe. Even though I was breathing, it was almost like a day job breathing. And every breath, like throughout the entire day, felt like I was sweating trying to breathe basically. And it all went away. I just breathed for the first time and it went away. And I made a promise to myself and God. And I said that, so that was November of 2018. I said, I will never go back. It goes back to I'm a different person now. I won't get drunk. I haven't been drunk since 2018. I will not do drugs because that's what I used to do. I won't cuss because that's who I used to be. I won't have sex until I'm married. Like crazy things that would have never been a thing. And I followed every single one of them because that's how bad it got. And that's why like today I'm like, yes, I live a very good life now, but this was only 5 years ago. Like and I was at 54th Street until 2020. And now I'm about to be over 3 F45s and run a successful online coaching business and all of these things, like helping people get out of what they're going through. I'm like, God is a restorer of time. And that's what the Bible says. Like he will take what you feel like took a lifetime and he will just like restore all the time you thought you lost. Yeah. God's like, you didn't lose any time, you know?
You're right on time.
Right on time. Yeah.
That's so powerful. Holy crap.
Yeah. That was a lot. So go ahead.
I can't believe the first time you went to church, you got pointed out. That's the kind of stuff that inspires me.
He pointed to me, Mark, like legit.
That is crazy.
And that, you know what? My stubbornness, that is the only thing that would have gotten me
it's the
out.
only thing that would have worked.
It's the only thing.
You would have left that day and just been like, oh, that was cool.
Exactly.
Man. It
was the only thing that could have worked. And that's what God did.
That is so incredible.
Yeah.
It really is, man. It's, it takes drastic change. Like sometimes people, especially in a world where, I don't know, maybe it's just my algorithmic internet, but it seems like there's coaches everywhere. There's mentors everywhere. There's everybody trying to like give everybody else, all this advice. And a lot of the advice that I see from these personal development people or these lifestyle coaches or these blah, 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 are always like balance, for real.
Yeah.
Like give yourself grace and like there's merit to that, right? But like it's disgusting to me because I know what it actually takes to change. And like for you to go from where you were at to I will not get drunk. I will not cuss. I will not do drugs. I won't even have sex until I'm married. These are drastic commitments.
Massive.
Drastic commitments. And I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. You have to my favorite philosopher of all time is a guy named James Allen. Incredible. And he has like sort of a commandments of sort, but he's not trying to overstep. He's very, of course, he's very religious, but he has like these rules.
His rules, yeah.
And one of the rules is live by rule. Like he's just very big on like you set rules for yourself and you don't break them. And you know, this is a conversation I've had many times over the years because people will say that certain things are unsustainable. Yeah. You know, or the way I live. I work hard. I work very hard. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of flack over the years from family members or friends of like, oh, don't you ever take a break? Or this is the way that you live is unsustainable. Or if I set rules for myself and I say, no, I don't do this. Well, you should be able to do it in moderation. No, it was those rules. It was being rigid and setting rules that really set me free. You know, Jocko has this thing, discipline equals freedom. And it's so inspiring to hear an example of how, you know, setting some hard boundaries and setting hard rules really like it liberated you from like the prison, the hell that you were living in. Yeah. For real. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And it set me up. I mean, I know everyone's story is different and everyone's going to deal with whatever they're going through differently. But me personally, with like an addictive personality, it needed to be like, no. Like zero.
I hate to say it, but everybody's like that. I don't give a fuck. Even if you say you're not, you are. We let ourselves off the hook, and it's like that. It's that moderation that's keeping you where you're at. 100%. Yeah. Like I just, you know, I struggle with this myself. For real, I struggle with this myself. Like I'll let myself off the hook. Like smoking weed is one of those things. I'll be like, it's okay, but I know I'm suboptimal. I know I am when I smoke weed. 100%. Dang. No question about it. And so recently, my birthday just passed.
Happy birthday.
And I set some hard rules for myself. I really did. I said, man, I'm going to go a whole year sober. No weed, no cigar, or no alcohol, no drugs, no nothing, right? Yeah. And if I do, it'll be the first time I did that since I was like 16 years old.
Dude.
Whole year.
It's a big deal.
Right. And it's, man, those hard rules set you free. It really does. So, dude, okay, so this is amazing.
It's a lot.
But no, it's amazing.
Thanks.
It's not a lot. It's, dude, this is what it takes. Yeah. There's a reason why you're you. This is part of the reason why we got to do this show is because there's these people, and I'm very, very fortunate, man. God has brought some amazing people into my life, like Lau. Like, how the fuck did she end up here? You know what I mean? Like,
some things just don't make sense.
This woman is, that's why me and my friend James, a good friend.
I love James.
Good friend of mine. But we've had a lot of these conversations because when I first met James tried to call himself an atheist. And I'm like,
hold on, James.
We gonna talk.
James, go ahead and sit down. Let me go grab some tea.
Take a seat next to Papa. Yeah. But you know, and so I'm like, you know, I use those people. I use, you know, as an example. There's some things that I can't take credit for. You know what I mean? There's no explanation for it. Lau is from Miami. She is a literal godsend.
Doesn't make sense.
I couldn't have created a more perfect, you know, partner in crime for what I'm trying to do. Yeah. And I think about it all the time. And this woman just shot me a DM on Instagram that I literally ignored.
She came to you.
That I ignored. It just fell in my lap. I was understaffed. Understaffed, working open to close 7 days a week, but I really feel like I'm doing what God called me to do.
God's like I have help.
No, yeah, exactly. I feel like I know I'm in the right place. Yeah. I'm doing what I'm called to do.
Absolutely.
I quit a job. Listen, man.
This is it.
I quit a job, you know what I mean? And I'm broke. I quit a job and I gave up everything. I gave up a life that most people would give anything for to do this. I feel because I felt called to do it. But like, man, and you know, and I'm in this really tough spot and I'm struggling, and then Lau just falls into my lap. It's crazy, man. But you know, there's these amazing people out here. And when you meet them, you wonder, man, what's different about that person?
Mm-hmm.
And what you just shared, you said it's a lot. No, it's what it takes.
Yeah.
It's what it takes. I'm sorry. It's what it takes. And nobody's perfect. It's so awesome that you're able to share that story and own it with a sense of ownership.
It took time.
Some people, everybody has their things.
Yeah.
Like everybody has their things where they're not proud of. They're ashamed of this person that they were. And they think that if they just never bring that person up, that they'll never come up. But you can never actually become the kind of person that when you meet them, you're like, wow, man, this person is magical. This person is powerful. This person has something special about them, until or unless you face it, you own it. You know? So it's just, man, it's not a lot. It's what it takes. It's really cool that you shared that.
Thank you.
It's even more cool that you went through it. You know what I mean? It takes so much courage to show up. It takes a lot of courage to accept help when it's offered, especially when you're at your low.
Especially when your mom tells you all your life, you're a strong, independent woman and you do not need a man. Mm-hmm. Like that was tough. Because and then you're not asking for help. You're a strong, independent woman. You know, you can do anything you want.
There's this concept that we talk about often in the men's group. It's toxic individualism. Mm-hmm. You know, like I used to embody that, like thinking I had to do everything on my own. If you offered help, I wouldn't accept it. Mm-hmm. No, I'm good.
I got it.
Yeah, I'm good. Mm-hmm. And I really think that one of the greatest things that we could do as a community is re-embrace the interdependency. Yeah. Not codependency. Codependency can be unhealthy, but interdependency, like a willing, dependence on somebody else, just understanding the role that they play and the role that you play. It's really cool. But so when and how did you meet Nolan? So you said that was 2018.
I don't think you're ready for this.
2020 what?
Dude. So it was so 2018 in November. I always say good things happen in November, always, because that's when I gave my life to Christ. That's when I found my church. Mm-hmm. That's when I technically met. This is when I was like totally sold out for the church I was going to, which we're not going to get into that. Then Nolan got on staff. Yeah. But so 2018 November, it was my birthday, because my birthday is November 24th. Excuse me. My birthday is November 24th. That is when, so I made these decisions that I was not going to do this, and this in the beginning of November. And I was dating someone at the time. Mm-hmm. And it comes to my birthday, November 24th of 2018. So that same month, I just made all these rules for myself. And I'm like, I got to break up with this guy. Like I don't see it. I don't see it anymore. Now that I've changed who I am, because everyone's like, well, I hope you don't change. I'm like, I will. I'm going to change. Yeah. So I'm so sorry. I lost so many friends because I changed, but even this guy, so I broke up with him, and he understood, because he was very sad, but he understood, which was very weird. I didn't see that happening. So that was 2018 in November. January 1st of 2019, I go to a church New Year's party. No alcohol, no drugs, no like booty shaking, like wearing your little like skimpy clothes, because I was bad. I used to wear like nipple covers for clothes. Just I know I was so bad. I used to show it all. Yeah. So I go to this New Year's party, this church New Year's party, and I'm like, I wonder what to expect here, because it's a New Year's party, And I'm used to like doing all these other things, and everyone's having so much fun. Like so much fun. It was the best New Year's I've ever been to, and I've gone to a New Year's party multiple in a year, like so many years in a row. And I'm like, that was so much fun. I felt so fulfilled. And that night is when I met Nolan.
Really?
At that New Year's party. I say party like in quotes because it's just so funny. But so I met him, and I found out he went to Faith Church, all this stuff. oops, didn't mean to say the church. Oopsie. I found out he went to this church, and he was dating someone, but he had just he was going back and forth with this girl, and his friends, which are now my best friends, so we're all best friends with them, but they were saying, yeah, we know this guy Nolan, but he doesn't really come around a lot because he's dating this girl and she's kind of pulled him away from the friend group. Like, they're just being completely honest. I'm like, we should try to get him back. Anyway, he ends up breaking up with this girl, and I go to this church, and we become best friends because we hit it off at this New Year's party. So we are like besties, but I would have told anyone, and I did. I said, Nolan is not my type. I tell him this, so he knows. He wore skinny jeans that look like leggings. He wore turtleneck sweaters, Chelsea boots, and his hair, he used to like slick it back, and he was super scrawny, like very small. Yeah. And the guys I have always dated were super fit, like owned a pair of joggers. He didn't even own a pair of joggers. Nolan didn't. And that blew my mind because that's like my favorite thing. So I came like tattooed up, like all this is like who I would be dating. So when Nolan comes around, I'm like, no, we're just friends. I can promise you. And I'm telling all my friends this. And then one day, we were friends for like 4 months. And one day he just tells me that he sees his life with me as his wife. Yeah. Like and he didn't say it like that. He said, I see my life with you, but the next person I date, I am looking to marry. So that's what he said. Yeah. And I was like so thrown off. I'm like, I don't know if I see that. And I'm just going back and forth with like looks. Appearance was so, it was on my mind a lot. And I just wanted something else in my mind then. And then I actually was leaving for vacation for a week. Left for vacation. I really thought about it. And I came back and I'm like, I think I'm supposed to marry Nolan. It was literally like that. So broke up with this dude in November. Met Nolan end of November. Met Nolan January 1st of that next year. Was friends with him for 4 months. And then we started dating. We dated for a year. He proposed. He proposed in COVID, so 2020. And then we got married 2 months later. Wow. In COVID, in my best friend's backyard. We set up a whole wedding.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
It's like stupid. And like this is coming from the girl who's like, I don't believe in marriage. All men are the same.
How long you guys been married now?
We've been married since 2020. So 3 years. Yeah. We got married September of 2020. We had a very small wedding because it was still locked down kind of, but you could only be in groups of like 50 at most. We had like a group of 60 or something in a backyard, but yeah, crazy. So got married. And then because I also said I would not live with someone either unless I was married. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we kind of like
moved it along.
We're like, let's go. Because I also wasn't having sex either. Yeah. So then we got married and we moved in with his parents for a little while to like save up money. Then we built our house. Then we started a business. We actually started a clothing line that we no longer do. And F45 crept in, and now it's
been tackling life.
Oh yeah. It honestly, so many blessings came after I met Nolan.
Like what? Like
I'm very grateful for the life before Nolan, but I really felt like God was waiting to unlock a lot of things he wanted to give me until Nolan was there. Because for one, that clothing line, every drop we did, we sold out within a day. Excuse me. So I knew that was like, and maybe we'll circle back like later on, but that in that season, it needed to happen. And then even just like the whole F45 thing, Nolan was the one who designed the F45 presentation for the owner, not knowing I would ever work there. That owner reached out to Nolan because he's a graphic designer. And he said, hey, I want to start this gym. Can you design a presentation for my investors?
Yeah.
And then Nolan designed it. And as he was designing it, I was sitting by him and I was like, that seems like a cool gym. And then that's literally how that happened.
Wow.
So God used Nolan to design this presentation that got us $200,000 in 2 weeks to open up the first F45. He used Nolan for that. And then that just so happens to be like a part of my future.
Wow.
So that's what I mean by I couldn't have been here if I didn't meet Nolan.
There was blessings that were waiting for you.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Even the house. Like, I'm going to be honest. My name is not on our house because of my dad stealing my identity when I was younger. So Nolan's name is the only name on our house. So I'm like, I wouldn't even have this house if it wasn't for Nolan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Same with my car. My car is in Nolan's name.
Ripple effects, man. Ripple effects.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love Nolan. He's such a class act.
He's good.
He really
he's a good guy.
He's such a class act. I gotta spend more time with him, but he's he's in that first form bubble.
Yeah. Hey, he has some I'm proud of him.
Really?
He's got some strict rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he does really good at first form actually.
I bet.
Because it could be,
I bet he does.
He does. He loves it.
He's a gem.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, dude, honestly, hearing your story, it only made me love you even more. Not that I didn't realize I could like you even more because I already liked you so damn much.
Thanks,
but man,
Mark.
hearing your story is so inspiring. It really is. You and Nolan are really an inspiration to me, even though you're younger than me. It's like you set a good example for the kind of relationship that I want to have.
I love that.
And Nolan's a class act for real. I think everybody needs to follow you. Unfollow all these bitches you following on the internet and just follow Jan, okay? Because that's what we need. Yeah. No, for real. We need more women like you.
Thank you.
And it's not to say that it's not okay to struggle. It's not to say that it's not okay to,
of course,
be imperfect. It is okay. But man, have the courage to face it and be honest with yourself and be honest.
Yeah, because I'm still tempted by anger.
Oh man.
I'm still tempted.
I was telling these guys earlier how I shouldn't even say this on the air.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, I swear, the other day I was on the highway.
Oh no.
The other day I was on the highway. Because how you said earlier that you fight a lot. Same. I fought a lot, and I really still believe that I think that some things in our culture right now could be corrected if more people have been punched in the face at least once. For real.
The wind knocked out of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you have never been held accountable for the things that come out of your mouth, you know what I mean? I've lived in environments where anything that comes out of your mouth, you better be prepared to get punched for, Yeah. And so you think twice before you say something. And, the internet has created an environment in which people can say
whatever they want
to anybody, and there's zero accountability. And I just, And so the other day, I was literally behind somebody on the highway.
What'd you do?
I was like, if this person gets off on any exit in the state of Missouri, then I am going to get off behind them, and I'm going to walk up and kick their door in, and I'm going to go about my day.
No.
And fortunately, I followed them all the way to the last exit in Missouri.
No, you didn't.
And they went to Illinois.
They
and
knew.
I was like, all right, I'm going to get off. God saved your ass.
No.
Anyway, I'm tempted by anger.
Me too. I'm like, you're constantly working on it. The Bible even says that you will be tempted.
Oh, you're gonna be tempted,
you will go through trials. You will experience evil things. You will. It's like, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do
with it?
You gotta show up. You gotta try. Gotta keep trying. That's why every time I have this conversation, especially the Christian thing comes up.
Yeah.
My biggest gripe is not that people are imperfect. It's that you're not trying. You know what I mean? And that's every time. I always say the same language. I try really hard.
Yeah.
And I mean it,
Yeah. I can tell you do. I'm very proud of you.
Man.
All
I'm saying is these people out here lucky that I try so hard.
I know. I'm like, if the old Jan was here.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much, and I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Do you have anything, any last things you want to share, you want to leave us with?
I just think it's so important to note you've said it multiple times, but nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, you've got, oh man, you're doing all these things, you have a great relationship with Grace, people look up to you a lot, people look up to me. I think we do have good influence around St. Louis, and I love that about both of us. But I think people forget that even people like us go through, like, we've got bad days. We're tempted by things too. Life is not, it's not meant to be easy. But it's doable. Yeah, it really is. So I think, just to reiterate, if you're listening to this and you are going through a lot right now, just, dude, you got this. You got this.
And if you see Jan around the coffee shop and you need to talk, you go talk to Jan.
Yeah, okay? You can always talk
Mama
to
Jan's
me.
got you. She's going to tell you.
Yes.
The only person.
The only person at a pity party is the devil, so get up.
All right. See you later, guys.